everyone.
Hey!
Hello.
It's Fantasy Labs. Welcome, I'm Pete.
I am Jeremy, and yes, a warm welcome from me as well. How's it going? Stream was 1 minute overdue. Halo is saying. I'm sorry, Halo.
On my end, it was still 9 o'clock when we started. I don't know what clock you're looking at, but I think we were right on time, Jeremy. How about you?
How's it going, everyone? This is Fantasy
No
Labs,
support, huh? All right.
a show that we run here pretty much every Sunday on the D&D Time Twitch channel, where we talk mostly about homebrew, but really all things Dungeons and Dragons. And the kind of focus of the show is to improve all of our understandings as creators and as players of this game, as people who love Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games, so that we can up the quality of our games, our characters, our content, and all the stuff that we do love. So that's what we're all about here. Pete, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to, I'm excited to talk about some homebrew content tonight. This is actually a week I'm particularly excited. I mean, I'm always excited to do Fantasy Labs, but tonight we're talking about classes, which I am particularly looking forward to.
I am as well. Also, hello, Viper Morrow. Welcome. Thank you for the follow, and thanks for popping by and hanging out. I see you're in the chat. You created a new race not long ago, your first one, and you'll have some input on it. Well, Viper, if you want, we normally don't we don't do entries right at the last second, but if you got something something short like a race, just throw a link in our Discord. You can find a link on our website, dndtime.stream.
Oh, and I see it's actually already in there.
Oh, geez, way ahead of me. Give us like 2 sentences, right, about the context you want to use it in. Are you playing this in like an adventure like Waterdeep Dragon Heist? Are you thinking about having this be available in like a homebrew setting? And, give us a sentence or two so we have that little context. But yeah, we can definitely take a peek at that today. But Pete, besides taking a look at all the awesome community content that our people created, Pete, you were really excited about the other topic we're looking at today. And I am as well. What is that topic?
We're going to be talking about class design today. We're looking at a couple of classes from Reddit that have received some pretty significant acclaim via Reddit Gold, and in acclaim in the form of upvotes and Reddit Gold and accolades in that regard. So we're going to look at these classes. Class design is it's the most difficult thing to design for in 5e, because in a lot of ways, 5th edition originally was designed to kind of just be the 12 classes that it was, and then for you to find variation in the subclasses and to kind of fill they're meant to be broad enough to fit anything underneath one of those kind of 12 banners. So it's really hard to design something that fits into that system, but we're going to be talking about a couple of people who have taken a stab at it, and I'm really excited to see those two classes, because you got to.
It's weird to say classes.
I'm not used to it. I'm not used to not saying subclasses. I'm just instinctively said it. So that's the big thing on the docket for today. But first, we are going to do that community content stuff.
Yeah, and of course, you guys see on the screen right now our rubric. This is how we evaluate our content. We don't use this for our community content, obviously. This is our critical analysis rubric. We use this for official content or for other homebrew content that people want us to critically review. So we'll talk a little bit about this and how it kind of applies differently when we're thinking about classes, because you got to think of the rubric in a kind of different context depending on whether you're looking at magic items or subclasses or classes or races, or it's different everywhere. But Pete, also I just wanted to put this out there for you all to know. Recently, and by recently I mean on the 15th, so 5 days ago, Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, was released. Very, very cool new module based in the frozen north of Icewind Dale in the Forgotten Realms. Very cool. One thing I just wanted to point out before we get too far, this book is so thick. It is so thick. I would give it 3 C's. It's wild. There's so much cool stuff in there.
That's pretty beefy.
Yeah, I know, it's wild.
I'm excited for Icewind. I haven't gotten my copy yet, but I will be obtaining it very soon. And so long as we're talking about intro stuff, odds are that next week we will be talking about some of the stuff in Icewind Dale. It'll be like a spoiler light review of that, as well as maybe talking about some of the the pre-released stuff from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything as well, because there's a couple of not leaks, but just stuff that they've already kind of given out to people to look at. So expect that next week on the docket. But Jeremy, you want to hop into our community stuff for tonight?
Yeah, let's talk about our community content. So here we go. We're on to our little community content page. This is a little sheet that we put together which just lists all of the relevant community content that we're planning on talking about tonight. Of course, there are other things that were shared in our Discord, but this is stuff that Pete and I felt we could really give some positive feedback on. That could really be beneficial and be really cool to look at. So Pete, let's take a peek here. What's our first order of business tonight?
This is a Demolisher Barbarian is the first one. I believe that this was inspired, created by V-Bunny. This is inspired by a barbarian that Charity in Discord put out the previous week. I believe it was the Besieger. So this is kind of, I think, a take on that archetype. This is the Path of the Demolisher.
Yeah, and so V-Bunny created this on D&D Beyond, and it goes as such. A Demolisher is a barbarian who specializes in the destruction of structures, as well as bone breaking. They specialize in weapon use and using said weapons to destroy even the toughest of challenges. Okay, I think that second part is kind of evident for most barbarians, but fair enough.
That's probably a little bit general. I feel like you could almost actually sounds more like a fighter to me.
Either way, though.
Especially weapon. Yeah, regardless. Power Strike here is the first one starting when you choose this path at 3rd level. You can channel extra force into your weapon strikes while you're raging. The first time you hit a creature on each of your turns with a weapon attack, you can roll one of the weapon's damage dice one additional time and add it to the normal damage you would deal. This damage boost does not include additional damage from things like +1 magic weapons, flame tongues, class features like sneak attack, or fighting styles. Additionally, you deal double weapon damage to structures and objects, whether or not you hit them with Power Strike. It essentially gives...
Go ahead.
In a lot of ways, this kind of makes it so that all of your attacks crit when you're raging. Actually, if you're wielding a great axe specifically, it makes it so that all of your attacks crit. So this is way overpowered. I think. Jeremy,
it's the first time you hit a creature on a turn, right? You can roll one of the weapons die a second time. I'm just thinking, and it's only while you're raging. I'm just thinking, like, compared to like the path of the Zealot, right? The Zealot Barbarian, they get to add, I think it's a D6 or something. It might be a D8 to their first attack each turn. This is more powerful than that, sure. I'm willing to put it that way, but I don't think it's way overpowered. It might just be a little too strong.
You're right. I'd
like to see what else there is.
I missed the first time. I thought it was all of your weapon attacks had this. So thank you for pointing that out.
And everybody, I know you put some text in here. The damage does not include additional stuff. I don't think you actually need that rules clarification. You can put it in there if you'd like, but I don't think it's super necessary. And yeah, Jinhal, we always try to take a couple of minutes at the beginning to look at some community content. Just, show you guys we do care, and we do like to look at that stuff.
Absolutely.
I think the damage to weapons, though, needs to maybe go out of Power Strike. I think that's just kind of weird. It's just like, also, as part of Power Strike, you get this thing that's unrelated to Power Strike.
You mean for...
With the last sentence, right?
Okay.
Weapon damage to structures.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's important. I think it's just weird to be as part of Power Strike there. But Pete, you want to talk? Oh, actually, I'll talk about Battle Stance.
Yeah, take Battle Stance here.
Also at 3rd level, when you enter a rage or as a bonus action on your turn while you are raging, you can assume one of the following stances, which last 1 minute or until you end your rage. You can only have one stance active at a time, but you can use a bonus action on your turn to change stances. Okay, a little redundant, but that's fine. And the stances are Cleaving Assault. You assume the Cleaving Assault stance until the stance ends. Whenever you hit with the base melee basic attack using a weapon, that's not a keyword in 5e. Just as a note, Bunny. One enemy adjacent to you other than the target of the attack takes damage with their Constitution modifier. Smasher, you assume the Smasher stance until the stance ends. Whenever you hit an enemy with a melee attack on your using a weapon, that enemy has their movement speed cut in half until the end of your next turn. Hammerheads, you assume the Hammerhead stance until the stance ends. Whenever you hit an enemy with a basic attack using a weapon, you can use a free action to push the enemy back 5 feet and then move the same distance towards that enemy. Okay. And Thrower, you assume the Thrower stance. You can reckless attack with thrown weapons, add your rage damage to thrown weapons, even if the attack is ranged. And when you make an attack by throwing a weapon with which you have proficiency, the weapon returns to your hand after the attack. And Guardian is another one. You assume the Guardian stance, and you can use your Strength modifier in place of your Dex modifier for determining unarmored defense. And any enemy within 5 feet of you has disadvantage on attack rolls when it makes an attack that does not include among its targets you. Okay.
That is
Way
that is
too
a
much.
lot of stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
Especially for Barbarian, which I think tend to be one of the more simplistic classes. I wouldn't say that I'm opposed to the idea of a Barbarian that's a little bit more intricate, but I don't know if that really jives with also this idea of the Pash of the Demolisher, which kind of sounds to me like it's meant to be as like a very straightforward sort of like having multiple different stances and strategy just from a flavor dissonance point doesn't really jive with me for Demolisher. And beyond that, also just too much at level 3.
Along that line, Pete, is we're hitting this point of like the most important thing to consider when you're designing is less is more. If you can convey what your like vision is for the flavor of the subclass, right, with as little as possible, that is a successful feature. There's so much going on here, and to me, the concept, just forget about it working as barbarian thing overall, which is maybe questionable. But the concept of I have these stances and I'm changing stances just seems totally non sequitur to our I smash structures, which is how you've defined this this barbarian.
Indeed.
Viper Mario, you're having some trouble with Twitch. I'm very sorry about that. Unfortunately, we're not Twitch partners, so we don't always get quality options on Twitch. I'm sorry.
Which is a shame, but
it is a bummer. Anyway, I think there's some really, really cool ideas here. V-Bunny, I really like the Cleaving Assault a lot. I think that's very cool, and I think that almost could be this feature if you just left it at that. I think some of these are very powerful, though. Smasher is broken.
Thrower is another thing that I would like to see as a barbarian thing, but that almost sounds like a whole nother barbarian. Like a thrower barbarian is the kind of like I could almost see being an archetype. But
I agree. Yeah, there's just too much going on. At 6th level, you've got this other feature, Demolisher Charge. Your whole body is a weapon. When you use the action to dash, when you use your action to dash, you can use a bonus action to make one melee attack, stopping immediately afterward. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line immediately before taking this bonus action against a creature, you might knock the creature prone and back 10 feet. If you hit a creature or object with this attack, you quadruple damage to... a structure or object with this attack. You deal quadruple damage to structure or object. This does not stack with the double damage from Power Strike. I think this is a very cool feature, actually. The quad damage is weird. I just say it and deal maximum damage, I think is a cleaner way of dealing that.
Agreed. I like this as well.
That way it can work with the Power Strike double damage. And
in the same vein, I also think that this is a little bit more in the brand of a Demolisher. Like, this is what I expected a Demolisher to be doing, is like running forward and smashing into something is 100% in that vibe.
Yep. This 10th level feature, Pete, do we want to go through this?
I was just about to say this 10th level feature. I'll read one just as an example here. Slashing weapons. You basically get to pick one of these options, and it gives you an ability. One thing for phrasing on that, you probably want to say weapons that deal that type of damage rather than saying slashing weapons, because I don't know if you can phrase it like that. But Slashing weapons here. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals slashing damage, you can reduce the speed of the target by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. When you score a critical hit that deals slashing damage to a creature, you grievously wound it. Till the start of your next turn, the target has disadvantage on all attack rolls.
Are these just the feats that were in the Unearthed Arcana? Yeah, these look like they're just the feats that were in the Unearthed Arcana.
Okay, yeah. These.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't just do that as a class feature.
Yeah. I don't think they really work as class features. Also, like, I don't know, they're kind of intended as they're kind of intended as feats because there's something that you're just meant to be kind of hopping onto again, and I think it's the same issue where one, too complicated, and two, they don't really jive with the Demolisher archetype that you've set up.
Yep.
That's a pretty
so I guess
quick one.
Yeah, I guess our overall takeaway here is I think there needs to be a more defined concept of what you want this to be. It sounds like you want them to be all about like smashing stuff, and I think you can really try and make that more all-encompassing in the class. Stuff like the cleaving assault, that actually works really well because it's you're smashing through the person you're attacking, right? Like, I think that actually works to support that concept, whereas stuff like the different weapon specializations really don't. Any other big takeaways, Pete?
Just to cap off this 14th level feature, when you're raging, reduce all damage you receive by a number equal to your proficiency bonus. Additionally, you may make an attack of opportunity as a reaction when an enemy misses you with an attack or attacks a creature other than you while that enemy is within 5 feet of you. How do you feel about flat DR?
No. I don't like it at all.
I'm likely on the same page.
The way it actually would work, the way the damage resistance and damage reduction apply in the order of operations, which, because now we're having to deal with order of operations with rage having damage and then damage resistance, we're hitting a level of complexity that we just shouldn't have in 5e. But if they do show up, the damage reduction actually applies before the resistance. So it's actually half as effective as maybe you think it is here.
You get half reduction is essentially what it comes down to. Even beyond being a barbarian, there's one thing I think that's like plate mail or heavy armor master gives you like a DR against certain things, which is a weird thing to put on one item in the game. I would stay away from just a flat damage reduction on anything for any mechanic in general.
Yeah, it's also just very kind of, at this point, there's just a lot going on.
Yep. So probably too powerful, but those are some of the things we think you should look at. And let's hop on to the next one. Thanks very much for submitting this, V-Buddy.
Absolutely.
And also, thank you again to Churi for the original idea as well.
Absolutely.
I know that this is kind of they were working on.
We love that. Like, one of the big things that we wanted to do with Fantasy Labs is exactly that, right? Is someone creates a thing and then someone else sees that and is like, wow, I'm really inspired by it. So I think that's a very cool thing. This next one is the Ruby Dragon Heart Scale, created by Grogan. Thank you, Grogan. Once found within the flesh of a ruby dragon, the scale pulses and beats in time with an unknown heart, as if it were alive. There were quite the number of theories on how the heart scale was formed, but what is known about it frightens even the most scholarly wizards from the sheer power that emanates from the gem. When it opens up, revealing an almost flesh-like pages with deep blue script writhing and wriggling over them. Well, that's creepy.
This is a spell book. This is an artifact, a spell book, and requires attunement by a wizard. Naturally there. Until attuned, a creature holding the scale must pass a DC 18 Wisdom saving throw once per long rest, or drop the scale as if affected by the Fear spell. Does the Fear spell force you to?
Yep.
Drop objects?
You drop whatever you're holding.
Oh, that's cool. Once attuned, the scale functions as a spellbook. Once per long rest, the attuned creature may add up to 10 known spells to the scale. Known spells within the scale are erased if attunement is lost. Is known spells, I assume, refers to spells that you already have in your current spellbook? Would be.
I assume it's that's a good guess.
Is that the phrasing for it? Okay, yeah. And then it says, fire damage dealing spells do an additional 4d6 fire damage. All right, so this buffs up your fire damage spells. I think this is cool. I really like the flavor of it. It's very creepy. The flesh pages are definitely evocative. The only thing I'd say about it is just, and this is, I mean, you get to decide what an artifact is in your own world. Traditionally, when you think of an artifact, usually that's just probably a higher tier item. I would probably rank this as like a rare item at 46.
It's weird though, right? Because like this is just an extra 46 damage on Fireball, right?
Yeah, so it's good, but it's also, it requires an attunement slot, and
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a cool item. That's all I got to say about it. It maybe isn't right for every world, but
oh, and
for sitting, it's pretty cool.
apparently they made this little art here too. I just read art is done by myself.
Hot damn!
That's a cool little,
Very cool fractal heart.
Yeah, cool little graphic. Yeah, thank you very much, Grogan. Yeah, not too much. Just wanted to give it a read through here.
Yeah, and I would say Viper Mara, don't you worry. It's not about passing or failing. That's really not what we're about here with the community content. We're really just about talking through it and giving some cool feedback, folks. Halo was saying 12d6 damage on a level 3 cast is strong and scary. It absolutely is, but that's a legendary item, right? It's the kind of thing that if you give a level 1 character a ring of invisibility, what happens to that story, right? And it's a wild story. It's a wild and scary story. And I think that's the same kind of vibe with something like that. If you give that to a low-level character, give it to a low-level character. That's just how what your choice is as Dungeon Master. This next one here, though, this is interesting. This is by Apex. Hello, Apex, aka Halo Dude, in the chat. And Pete, this is a race from their homebrew setting, Black Lake. You want me to read a little bit about Black Lake, and then you can take this?
Fill us in. I was also reading a little bit up on that before we went in, because I saw it just under the wire on this one.
Black Lake is a high magic setting taking place across an entire planet. Magic is dense in the air, giving everyone some sort of magical ability, and campaign is treated like everyone has the magic initiative. That's pretty cool. Divinity is rare here, being choked out by the raw essence of magical presence. The Black Lake, an actual region, is a lake filled with corrupted magical energies siphoned from the astral sea through hidden means. Things dipped in it are either completely annihilated or heavily corrupted. And I think that's kind of the main vibe here. There's a lot of extra planar stuff. It's going to be a very long campaign spanning 17 levels. Oh my gosh. All right. So
and
that's kind
Apex,
of the base concept here.
Yeah. For starters, Apex, I wanted to say thank you very much for providing that information. It's really helpful to us. Like, this is kind of, I would say that this case, Apex, is exactly what we hope to do with the For Review channel on Fantasy Labs, which is give people like specific feedback on stuff that they want to use, and they're like, we know what like the purpose of it is, and we can kind of try and help you find balance for it for the particular game you're running it for. Thank you very much for the submission, and let's start taking a look at the Celeste. Celeste is how I would pronounce that.
Yeah, the Celeste, a race of humanoids dipped into Black Lake's waters and changed fundamentally by its corrupted magical presence. So it's got, you gave it a +1 to 3 ability scores: charisma, wisdom, intelligence. Okay. That's very rarely done in 5e, but it's perfectly reasonable to do.
Yeah, it has precedent. Also interesting that you did all 3 of the mental scores.
I think the idea, right, is it's a super magical lake, and so it makes sense, right, that it'd be, you're better at all these spell casting options.
That definitely tracks to me.
Yeah. And it's the kind of thing, if we didn't have that context, right, I wouldn't have understood this. So I'm sure that's fine. Corrupted by the Black Lake, they're chaotic in nature. Some are neutral or evil. This is just kind of basic racial information.
Age, alignment, size, all of those are, generally speaking, they're not really balance issues. They're more just flavor for your own campaign and the world building that you've done. So the first thing here, the next thing is going to be speed. You've base walking speed of 30 feet. That is pretty standard for medium creature. Dark vision, changed by the corrupted magic of the Black Lake. Your vision can easily cut through the darkness, and it's the standard 60 feet of dark vision here. First, here's another interesting one: Arcane Barrier. You have resistance to force damage, which again, that actually really tracks as this being such a heavily implied magical race that has magic like seeped into them. Because a lot of like the raw magic spells in 5e do deal force damage. Things like Magic Missile is the one that comes to mind, where it's just like this is just energy, and so it deals force damage. I don't know, that definitely tracks to me. Which
Absolutely.
force resistance isn't very powerful because it's such a niche damage type. It's probably the rarest damage type, but it definitely tracks for the race. And do you want to take the magic?
Yeah, Celeste Magic. You know the Chill Touch cantrip, and when you reach 3rd level, you can cast the Bane spell once per day. You must finish a long rest in order to cast a spell again using this trait. When you hit 5th level, you can also cast Raven Enfeeblement spell once per day. You must finish a long rest before you can cast a spell again using this trait, and Charisma is your spell casting ability for these spells. So you use the template of the Triton here. I think a very good example to start from. Couple of very cool. Oh my God, everybody! I know we did. Everybody, thank you. Sorry, guys, we gotta quickly interject. Thank you, everybody, subscribing for 23 months. Holy crap! Almost 2 years. We really appreciate your support and thank you.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, you're 1 month away. 1 month away from the big 2-year anniversary. Damn.
Thank you. You see, buddy, sometimes the pop-up doesn't show up on our thing here. But we appreciate your support very much. Thank you. But we're back on this with the Celeste Magic. Things I think really work about this. I think Chill Touch really works from the context you gave us of there not being a lot of divinity. Divinity is kind of choked out by magic. A lot of healing magic is tied to divinity, divine spells. And so I think the Chill Touch really works as it cuts out healing magic. It's kind of that vibe is actually reflected in that spell choice. The Bane is a little funky, but maybe, it's whatever. It's a fine 1st level spell to go in here. And Raven Enfeeblement works perfectly fine as well, too. The idea of the corruption weakening things, I think really does work.
Yeah.
Now, I'm interested you made Charisma their spellcasting ability. That's where I'm locked up here, Pete.
Yeah. I see what you're saying on that.
I think I'd say your choice of Charisma, Wisdom, or Intelligence.
I disagree. I think actually Charisma is the right choice.
Okay.
And
what about
even
Constitution?
I guess Constitution would also be an interesting choice, but it would make sense for it to be something that you get the bonus to, and the I don't know. I think Charisma makes sense because Charisma is generally speaking the speaking to the innate abilities, and Celeste Magic is decidedly an innate thing. Like you have the magic of it, and regardless of what you're good at, like it improves you in every category of magic. But for the actual abilities, I don't know. Charisma definitely tracks to me, so I think that you made the right choice, Halo Dude, with Charisma.
Now, yeah, I think you're right. And then of course, language is common and one other language choice. This is a really good race. Very well designed. Very simple. I think you have room here if you wanted for one more small feature. If you wanted, I don't think you have to, but I think that is definitely an option.
Yep. Like I think this would really. I don't know if there's something. If I could make a recommendation of what kind of feature to put in here, I don't know a lot about what you have intended for like the culture of the Celeste, but something along the lines of like a skill proficiency that recommends like how they are in their world and what they do, or like a tool proficiency, or just something that represents what the culture of these creatures that get, because it sounds like these are humanoids that have been dipped in the lake. The word dipped is really evocative to me because it implied that they got to this place and were corrupted in this way intentionally. So that sounds like a civilization that has tried to come to exist and
like
become
Achilles
these, changed right? Building. Yeah, there's definitely some Achilles flavor there, but I would consider doing something that represents the Celeste culturally for that particular extra feature, because I think you got a little room here.
And even if you didn't want to, I can also tell, because this is made for a very specific homebrew setting, there could be roleplay interactions that are very specific to members of this race in the world that don't show up on the stat block. And that's something that, because you gave us that context of Black Lake is a region for which the setting is named, that's very, all that stuff we mentioned earlier. That, to me, I think is a compelling reason to use what is a reasonably balanced race option. Even though this is not the most powerful race option by any means, but I think there are definitely going to be some little secret things in there, that secret little benefits, whether they be role playing wise or whatever in the setting. So
that come along
I
with it,
dig
for
it.
sure. I think this is well put together. I think as it stands, we mentioned it could maybe use a little bump just because the resistance to force damage isn't super powerful. But as it stands, this is perfectly balanced, and you could run this without any problem in a game.
Absolutely. And then our last content today, and this is the True Unicorn, and this was created by.
Jeremy, I'm sorry, can I have one more comment?
I'm sorry, please.
A fun thing to do on the Halo Dude, just a fun note for the force damage resistance. You could say you have resistance to force damage and are immune to the effects of the magic missile spell. That's just a personal thing that I like stuff like that. But consider it. That's all. We go to the last one here.
I love that addition, by the way, Pete. I think that's a very cool addition there. But yeah, let's talk the True Unicorn. So this is Viper Mara, correct, Pete?
Yes, it is. And thank you for the submission, and also good to see you, Viper Mara. So let's hop in. Do you want to start with the race here?
Yeah. So True Unicorn. Unicorns are white horses with spiraling horns upon their foreheads. They're exceptionally rare, and some consider them extinct. They represent a purity and possess great magic. Unicorns grow 3 horns during their lifetime, much in the same way humans lose their baby teeth and grow new ones. Unicorns have avatars, human forms, just like dragons, and some more powerful creatures do. Absolutely, I think that's a very good take for if you were going to wanted to play a unicorn as like a race option. I think it's a very cool idea, giving them a humanoid form as like a way of making it still make sense with everything.
I agree. That's why I was a little worried going in that this was just a horse race, and I was like, "Man, how are you going to juggle?" "How are you going to juggle this?"
Well, I mean, you could just say, "Yeah, it works." You can always.
Yeah, I know you can always kind of flavor things, but I really like that choice to, you're a unicorn in human form. Holy creatures. Being a holy creature, they tend to avoid beings of impurity and tend to dislike males that they can't stand them. They refuse to be near anything and will lash out at all if at all possible, or kill or destroy said thing. I know that ties into a lot of old unicorn lore. I believe pure maidens, I believe, in unicorns is the old mythos, right, Jeremy?
I actually don't know a lot of old unicorn mythos. Frankly,
I know there's something about maidens and unicorns is always the word that I hear.
I see one with an interesting direction. Deciding, all race options have this is typically how this race is, but there are exceptions. And I noticed you didn't put an exception in here, and I think that's okay.
It depends on the intention.
Of the context of this.
Yeah, it depends on the intention for which you're using it. If this was something that was going to be used in a book, something that you wanted to publish or put out for on Reddit and post for people to use, I would recommend putting an exception to it, like some or many unicorns feel this way, though not all, so that way people can kind of do what they want with it. But if you're using it for a home setting like a Halo Dude was, where they have very specific idea what they want their race to be, then you can just write it the way that you want to write it for that. So
absolutely. So you have a little bit more about them being lonely and whatnot, and a lot of this prelude information is it's what we call RP fuel, right? It's information you're giving a player so that when they go to play this character or a character of this race, they'll have some inspiration on how they want to role play them. So I think that's all great stuff to include. I really like the unicorn names. Little comment: they're the well-respected rock stars of the Feywild and tend to have Fey names.
Not like Wind Spring. What's the one? Windstar.
Windstar. I love
That's
Windstar.
that's a unicorn from the game that me and Jeremy are running on Pete and Jeremy's D&D side. But
Pete, let's talk a little bit about these actual stats.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where we can probably provide our the most actual help here.
So the first one here is the ability score modifier. Your character gains +2 wisdom and +1 strength, but loses -1 int. So a first recommendation I would make is this is something that I know Jeremy and I have talked about quite a few times, but I would recommend not doing penalty ability score modifiers because it just makes people like, hey, why can't my unicorn be smart? Like, a lot of people just have a tendency to dislike when they are kind of like forced into a particular archetype because of the race that they pick. So I would steer away from the -1 int if you can. I'm not saying it's always wrong, but especially the mental stats. I feel like for example, if a -2 dexterity or strength, I don't think is necessarily as brutal. Although I'd still stay away from those as well when you can.
Yeah, in the context of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, that's just not how the game works anymore. There aren't negative ability scores. There are some exceptions in Vola's Guide to Monsters, but even then, they're printing new rules to get rid of those exceptions. So if that isn't a red flag there, I wouldn't use negative ability scores. I agree with you. Just leave it as a +2 wisdom and +1 strength, and you're totally good. Age
4, and then
fine.
That's a
Now,
pretty standard align.
There is something to mention about the age. You've given them this infinite sort of age, and just understand. As long as you, as a dungeon master, or as a game master, and your players understand that, like, that doesn't mean you just know everything because you're infinitely old, right? Then you're fine. I know that can be a concern for a lot of folks. Like, well, I'm an elf and I've lived 600 years. How do I not have any skills? Right? How am
Have I
I
not
so
learned
bad at
everything?
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's totally fine, Viper. It's not a matter of don't do it. It's just a matter of, if you're gonna have a player play this race, or if you were gonna play it, make sure that there's an understanding between the dungeon master and the player that this is a fun narrative element. It's not going to have role play or mechanical implications that would give you crazy benefits based on presumptions of what you may have accomplished in those infinite years.
The next thing here is forms and size, and this is where I think we're getting wild here. Is you have a horse form, which in your horse form, unicorns resemble brilliant and beautiful white horses with a single perfect, gleaming and spiraling white horn that sprouts from the center of their foreheads. They stand high 6 foot to medium 7 foot range. They stand. I believe that's saying that. Yeah, I believe that's saying that the size category is still medium, even in their horse form, which is a good choice. And then for the avatar form, they look like humans, but with less faults and more perfection, standing at 6 feet to 6'5". So they're pretty tall, impressive humans, very beautiful humans, I imagine. Then speed.
There might be some language in the race option for the Azamar that could give you some text on how you want to describe less faults and more perfection in like a more flowery way. But you also could just leave it like that, especially if you're using this for your own home game.
Indeed. I like the speed. In human form, you tend to wander a bit. Your speed is 25 feet. In horse form, your speed is increased to 35 feet. I don't know if you need to justify the decrease in speed. I think if you want to say that you're just slower in uniform, you don't have to say that, like, they wander around a bit, because you don't have to, like, create that extra flavor for it, because that also kind of informs a bit about the character that maybe not everyone would want to do. But I think just having the speed be 25 for human and 35 for horse form is totally fine.
One thing we actually missed back when we were talking about the forms, I think you need to say something about how the characters can transform.
That's
is it an
actually
action or okay? Apologies. Then we'll see that.
It's under horn manipulation, which is a great name for a feature. Which I see they have.
Works fine. I mean, just advantage on save those against poison and charm, perfectly fine.
Trance and languages are both standard. Trance is the Elven trance, which doesn't it's just kind of a ribbon mostly, and then Common, Sylvan, Celestial. Pretty cool. But do you want to do horn? Do you want to take horn manipulation here, Jeremy?
Yeah, the horn lets you change from a horse to a human. It takes 10 minutes to change the horn as well, depending on what your character is and how many horns you have. Your horns don't get multiple horns, they fuse into one horn, which grows longer in horse form. Wait. Okay. If you have one horn, the horn does 1d4 plus 2 radiant damage. Each bonus horn increases, so 2 horns d8 and 3 horns d12. And turn into a human, those horns turn into a sword of your choice that does a d8 plus 2 radiant damage. Well, that's kind of cool.
You wield your horn.
Now, I don't think you need to have the +2 necessarily in there. All of these pluses would be based on your strength modifier typically. So I think you can remove the plus X damage part, but I think the weapon dies are pretty cool. When you have the second horn, it turns into a necklace, gives you immunity to poison. It's level at 8th level. Okay, so you can just say at 8th level, gotcha. These are more metaphorical horns than physical horns, except when you're on the unicorn, in which case they're real horn. But it's one horn. Yeah, I would use different terminology than 1, 2, and 3 horns. And the 3 horn, because the horn is a thing the unicorn actually has. It turns into a shield that raises your AC by 2 and gives +1 AC to an ally standing within 4 feet of you. Human form only. All horns give a glow that lights up caves up to 30 feet. Okay, so I think what you need to say here is for the horns glow, you just say it's dim light for 15 feet or bright light for 15 feet and dim light for additional 15 feet. That's kind of the standard language for that. Yeah, and I think at the typical language you want to use for these features that happen at X level, right? You say, when you reach 8th level, you gain this. When you reach, 14th level, you gain this. And you can just say, yeah, when you get to 8th level, your unicorn horn becomes, I don't know, more. Your unicorn horn's magic becomes more powerful, and when you transform into your human form, it does this other thing. Is maybe a direction to take with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a couple more features at the bottom here. You get proficiency in one-handed swords and shields, but are only proficient in light armors or very light medium armors. Weight-wise, may not be more than a mithril shirt. And then natural born healer, you gain healing word, spare the dying and resistance. Healing word's actually not a cantrip. That is a first level spell.
Yep.
So you would probably want to just take that one out altogether. Overall, the intention of this very much seems to be like, you plan on running, kind of letting players play this unicorn race. When designing so it's depending on, again, if you're talking for a home game versus just for anybody to use. You don't want to usually have features that require DM discretion. Like, you get this horn maybe around 8th level. Usually you want to just kind of take firm stances on that. There's maybe a little bit going on. Things, for example, like increasing armor class in any meaningful way. Any flat bonuses to armor class are really powerful in 5e, and I would avoid including those when you can. Yeah, overall, it's cool.
You tried to do something right off the gate that's really hard. You picked a thing and you wanted to create a thing that had multiple forms. And I like a lot of the directions you were going for with it. I think that's very cool. But it's very hard to get that right on the money. And yeah, maybe if you can come up with either something different for the armor class that maybe isn't quite so powerful, because that is very, very powerful. I think that would be a good idea, just to give it a little bit more flexibility, both for a player playing it. Like if you wanted to play a unicorn cleric, for example, the sword is a little funky. You might not use a sword at all, but you have it, right? It's just as a thought.
And yeah, overall, I would just say some simplification. I think for the most part, this is in pretty good shape. I just think some simplification of the horn manipulation feature And I might even consider, as just a good way of phrasing it, I might make like in human form your speed is 25 feet, um, and then not include your horse form speed, and then just put everything related to the horse form speed, the horse form, into one feature. Like you transform into a horse while you're a horse, you gain these
Gain
benefits.
these
Like
benefits. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
might be a better way to kind of just approach the design. But yeah, that's about all I got. Jeremy, you got anything else?
Yeah, no, it's a very good for your first homebrew, first foray into homebrew. Not too bad. I would
Absolutely.
definitely, like Pete was saying, look at some of the more standard stuff. I know you did that already for like the trance. You looked at elves. Good call. That's the best way to do homebrew. Is if something similar already exists, use it as a framework. Use it as a starting point to to make your own stuff. So
Cool.
a definitely good start. And thank you for sharing it. I
Yeah,
hope anything that we said was helpful.
thanks a lot, Viper. I hope you like it. You were just saying, Viper Mara, I think you're missing a major weakness. You must keep the horn if you lose that effect, so you could be level 20 and only have one horn. Um, that's actually something that I would avoid putting in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for the most part, racial features, you just want them to be something that is consistent, that you get the whole way through. I think for the most part, it would be better designed if you lowered the power level of the feature and just made it something that you could rely on. Like, I think a great use for the horn would just be to like look at like a natural weapon, even. Because I know a lot of races get natural weapons and just let do cool horn attacks. Because I think that's what a lot of people would want to do with a unicorn too, is just stab people with the horn. So anyway, that's our thoughts on that. But yeah, Jeremy.
Absolutely. So Pete, now we're going to move on. Thank you again, everyone, for sharing. We appreciate you guys sharing all your stuff, and hopefully we were able to help a little bit here and there. But we're on to our kind of. Do you want to do our next segment, or do we want to jump to a very quick break and then jump back and just go for it?
I think that's great. I think take a break right now, and then we can just come out swinging when we come back.
Excellent. So when we come back, we're going to be digging deep into two cool homebrew classes from Reddit. So stay tuned, folks. We'll see you in just a minute.
See you soon. Oh,
Hello, everyone. We're back.
you gave me a lag on that one.
I know I was confused. Hi, everybody. We're back.
Hi,
We're back.
we're back. We're talking about classes. It's class day. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
time to go to class. And by that I mean, I'm rambling right now. On a more serious note, we're going to be talking about class design, and I'm again very excited about that.
Yeah. So class design, super huge topic. This is like, if we've got homebrew 100 is what we usually do. This is a 400 level class.
Yeah,
And
this
there's
is
a lot to talk about here because there's so much more to think about.
pun intended. 400 level class.
Yeah. So yes, it was. Pete, I've got our rubric up, and I think this is our kind of first stepping stone here when we're going to be talking about our class. We talked a little bit about this last week, but I think it'd be worthwhile to take just a moment and reconsider what we're going to be looking for, right, when we're talking about our 5 categories.
Agreed. It'll be helpful for me as well.
So, you mind if I kick us off?
Yeah, let's talk of the most important. Want to talk about the most important one first?
Yeah. So, our first and arguably most important point is going to be space. We're really going to be taking the time to think about, is there room for this in 5th edition D&D? And that is such a huge question for classes, because this, normally we have, it says, right, does it fill a niche mechanically or in flavor that the system lacks and couldn't be accomplished with a reflavor of another class? And in the context of class design, it's more than just that. It has to both fill a niche that all of the other classes in the game don't already do, and it has to have room for it. It needs to be broad enough that there are other clear subcategories that fit under its umbrella. If you want to be like, oh, I get it, I will make the Fey class, and I have the Seelie Fey and the Unseelie Fey, and that's it. And there's no more you can go in that direction, because those are the 2 categories of Fey.
Yeah.
That's not a class, because there's not enough room under it. And that's something that we're really going to have to really, really think about when we're talking about class design specifically. You were saying the answer is always yes. Well, yeah, the answer is always yes. But a lot of the times, ideas that people think make good classes would probably make a better subclass to something else. Pete, you want to talk about our next couple?
Balance is the same as it's always been. It's a very simple point, but in a class, obviously, that's even more complicated. Jeremy, when we're looking at these, do we want to evaluate them in a vacuum, or do we want to evaluate them in the context of the potentials of multi-classing as well? I
Oh,
feel like
Christ.
I feel like we have to just look at it as a vacuum and just assume
Yeah.
that it's not going to get multi-classed.
So I think we do that, but also with balance, one of the things that I want to look for, Pete, and you let me know if you think this is a good idea, because I've been thinking about this a little bit. It's, does the class leave enough room in the subclass, like room power wise in its subclasses, right, for them to actually fulfill their subclass fantasies? Because I feel like there can be situations where there's so much oomph in the class that there's not a lot of room just for design in the subclasses for other things to be put under it. You know what I mean? It could be too constraining just in that.
I do, like the Bard, which doesn't give you oomph in your class and then doesn't leave you enough room in your subclasses for that.
That's the worst one. Yeah, the worst defender.
It's my it's also my favorite class is the is the saddest thing. But I'm with you. I think that's a great thing to look at in balance. That's one of the points we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at another thing that's probably more important than elsewhere is balance as they scale through the levels as well. Like you have to look at the balance of the class at each level. Because you want it to have a certain even curve. You can't, like, I feel like with subclasses, there's a little bit more, like, obviously, like, it's generally, its power is compared into the level of the class at that level, but it has, like, the baseline balance of that class already to fall back on, so you're just looking at it in the context of the barbarian, rather than in the context of just D&D. And that's the big difference here, is it's in the foundations of D&D, rather than just in the context of a class.
Yeah, every class is going to have breakpoints, places where they are more powerful and become more powerful as they level up. like, 5th level, where spellcasters get 3rd level spells, which are some of the most powerful spells for their level in the game. Actually, I'll say they are the most powerful spells for their level in the game. It's where fighters and martial classes get extra attack. And so looking at that breakpoint, level 11 is another breakpoint where it's the same kind of vibe. Spellcasters have gotten a ton of spells at that point. They got a lot of options. But, fighters and stuff will get their 2nd extra attack, martial classes at least. And so, it's important to look at those 2 breakpoints and say, is this class going to really fall flat at these core levels like the Bard does? Sorry, guys. I don't mean to just rag on the Bard.
Still gets 3rd level spells.
Yeah, all of those really good 3rd level spells the Bard gets. Like Fireball. Wait,
Lightning?
Gymnos.
Lightning bolt?
Yeah.
Nope. Playability. I mean, playability is the same as it's always been here as well. It's just more difficult because there's more to deal with. But
God, playability is like, are there incredibly? Because I think we can find in anything, right? Niche, multi-class, it breaks the game kind of stuff. But if this is like playability point here, is there a glaring, like so glaring, obvious, this is gonna break the game, kind of thing?
Yeah,
I think that's where this goes.
And I think that today we just assume that these aren't going to be multi-classed. Like in future class design, I think there's a first pass for does it work for itself, and then you look at multi-classing afterwards. Like I think that
that's how they design the actual game.
I did not know that, but
even in UnearthedArcana, they don't look at multi-classing at all before they put it out.
Yeah, actually, I did know that. Never mind.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, design.
Jesus. How do we talk about design for a class, Jerry? Here's one of the big points. It's going to be the subclass class relationship, as I think going to be talked about a lot in design.
Also, I think the most important that we always talk about design, like, does it follow convention? Is it easy to understand? And I think, is it easy to understand is probably going to be the most important part of design, right? Is it super clear how this is supposed to work? Because with a whole new class, there aren't other subclasses to look at. There might not even be other classes with comparable mechanics to look at. And so the mechanics have to be incredibly obvious. They need to be very understandable. It can't be ambiguous. And I think that's going to be a really big point in design.
I think another point for design is just elegance, simplicity. I'm expecting out of a class, I'm expecting to read in levels 1 to 3 to get like 2 features that are iconic to this class and that play into it for the rest of the game. And I think stuff that like doesn't kind of build on a framework is not going to be a great design for a class. Like, I don't think you could design a class, the Barbarian, for example, everything kind of ties into the first feature of Rage. Sneak attack for Rogue. I'm expecting to see something along those lines for this class as well. For spellcasters, you kind of get that in your spellcasting, which I think both of the ones that we have lined up here are both caster classes. We'll see what they do, but
and along what you were just saying, Pete, and this ties into our flavor point, I think the biggest thing that we're going to be looking for is in flavor is how the design and the flavor complement each other. So, like, when we're talking about the Barbarian's Rage feature says, in battle, you fight with primal ferocity. 1 sentence. Really simple, short sentence. On your turn, you can enter a rage as a bonus action, and while raging, you gain the following benefits if you aren't wearing heavy armor. And there's some more rules stuff with it, but the flavor that they have on that is, in battle, you fight with a primal ferocity. End of flavor. And then the mechanics, right? You have advantage on strength checks. When you are making a weapon attack with a melee weapon that deals strength, you deal extra damage. You gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. The mechanics and the design are what carries that 1 sentence this one very short sentence of flavor and makes rage such an iconic and identifiable feature for barbarians. If there's like a paragraph of flavor explaining the feature, it doesn't get the flavor point because it has failed to have the design and the mechanics speak for itself. And I think that's really a less is absolutely going to be more when we're thinking about flavor and design in this class. What do you think, Pete? That's my take.
I think my thinking was a little bit more,
A little more generous.
yeah, a little bit maybe more generous, which is to say that I want to see it just delivered on the promise of the name of the class. Class designs are so simple. I mean, things like wizard, obviously, a wizard is just an archetype that we all have in our mind, and we kind of know what a wizard is. But barbarian maybe is a good example of one that's not quite as straightforward. Barbarian's like, I just think, oh, this is going to be someone kind of wild that does attacks. And that's what I expect. We're looking at a thing called the Summoner and the Occultist. To get the flavor point for me on the Summoner, for example, is just going to be like, you summon things. Is really all I want for the flavor point. Like, I'm almost willing to give the flavor point if you prove to me that you get the space point as well. Like, if you prove that there's enough in Summoner to justify it being a class, then you kind of get the flavor by association.
Is the design of the class, does it support the flavor? Right? Is what the class does what it says it does? Yeah, we're on the same.
Yeah, okay. It all plays into each other. More so than other things, all of these 5 points are really going to bleed a lot.
Except for space. Space will stand on its own.
Well, the thing is if you don't get the space point, I think it's impossible to get any of the other points.
Yeah. You've just flopped. All right.
Final Fantasy Summoner. Yeah, that's the Summoner I think of too. The Final Fantasy Summoner is such it's such an archetype to me. That's one of the things I'm excited about looking at this Summoner class.
I've never played Final Fantasy. I have no context on that. And so for me, they don't only have to sell me, and I'm not the only person who doesn't have that exposure. There's going to be a lot of people that will see this class and not have that exposure. I think it's important that they have to sell me on what the class even is from that high conceptual level before we move forward from space. But I'm excited. You want to jump into it, Pete?
Yes. Are we on it? We have it out?
We're on it. Pete, this is the Summoner. Pete, who's this by?
This is by, let me get, this is a user New Page of Swords on Reddit. I've been wanting to, this is my first time finally dominating this. I really hope, Jeremy, that this is okay, because I've spent a lot of time being exciting about reading this, but I haven't even read a word of it, so. The Summoner class.
They pilfered from DeviantArt, which I mean they kept always keep watermarks if you're going to use someone else's art, and please do get their permission. Just as a general thing, there's a lot of people swiping art in this this sphere of content, creating content for 5e. So please, make sure you credit your artists always and get their permission, please.
This class does look gorgeous. No two ways about that. Looks
great.
Like the book.
Let's dive in.
The Summoner. This looks like a standard introduction here. It's just a fun class fact. They basically always have this little describe a few scenarios of summoners in action. So a young man in fine clothes waits inside his carriage as he watches the armed bandits slowly approach his rider. He pulls a runic stone out of his pocket and tosses it out the window. In the air, the runes on the stone glow a dark red, and upon impact with the ground, the stone burst with red arcane energy. Standing there where the stone landed is 3 large-headed chimera that releases a frightful roar from all of its heads. So they went a very Pokemon route with that one.
Oh, sorry.
Those were the other archetypes. I figured it would be Final Fantasy-esque or more Pokemon-esque. Binders of beasts. Summoners are those who bind the beasts who would be a danger to themselves and use them as allies in battle to use them as dangers to their foes. These summons act as both faithful friends and ever-loyal servants to their master. These summoned creatures may act upon their own will, though that of the summoner takes more precedence, as they are magically compelled to follow the summoner's desires.
All right, this very much sounds like Pokemon right off the bat. but way cooler than Pokemon. I can't say that.
There's a rat.
But-
Pokemon's maybe the coolest possible thing.
Oh my god, look at this is a very cool art too.
Yeah, it's a good art.
Yeah. So creating a summoner. When creating your summoner, think about why your character chooses to specialize in summoning. Do they enjoy the company of animals and keep them as pets? Or do they see themselves as slaves only good for certain purposes? Do you like the creatures you summon, and how do you react? To the creatures you summon? It is important to work with your DM to better understand your relationship to the character and its summons. Are you their leader, or are you some strange being to them as well, one that they must simply follow? Okay. I'm not sure that actually gave me a lot of great context in terms of like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's language that could be cleaned up there. Better questions I think that you could ask.
Yeah, those aren't good. There's a lot of redundant questions, and I don't know how helpful they actually would be. Quick build. Peter's got the quick build. You can make
You
summoner
gotta have quick build. How you make a summoner quickly by following these instructions. First, make wisdom your highest score, followed by either strength or dexterity. Oh, interesting. So I wonder if this is a hybrid. Second, choose the hermit or outlander background. Third, choose the mage hand and firebolt cantrips, along with the first level spells featherfall and mage armor. Optional rule multiclassing. We're gonna not play by that optional rule. I don't know if there's any reason to read it.
Yep. All right.
We got a class.
So, nice class block. Always a good thing. The reason that 5th edition has these is to clarify and simplify the class progression. And I think if you're going to make a class, you have to have one of these. You got to just suck it up and make this happen, because it helps follow, definitely. So, let's see. We got summoning stones and spell casting at 1st level. We've got natural evolution and artificial evolution at 2nd level. Summoner bond at 3rd level. Ability score increases at 4th level, 8th level, 12th level, 16th level, and 19th level, which is pretty standard for spellcast or anything really. That's not a fighter or a rogue.
That's universal.
Summoner bond, which I think is their subclass, starts at 3rd level. We've got improvements to features at 6th level to that's natural evolution, and at 7th level to it's a subclass feature. Improved summoning is a general 10th level feature. And yeah, it's mostly just improvements to your existing features from there on out. Looks like there are challenge rating limits to the things you can summon that increases you level up. And I think this follows the wild shape progression. It does. It follows the druid's.
It looks like it does.
Which very smart move for them to do that. Knowing that is an existing balanced thing in the game. Good strat or good direction.
Do that for sure.
Evolution points, interesting choice.
Is it a 3rd caster, by the way? Is that a paladin progression? Is that what that is?
This,
or rather a Eldritch Knight progression? 1/3 caster?
I think, yeah, this looks like an Eldritch Knight spell progression. So 1/3 spellcaster. And it looks like cantrips known is the exact same, and spells known. Let's
Maybe
see.
a little bit more.
Quickly check. Always good to check. Goodness, I can't find it now. Spells known is not the same. You're starting with spells known in this class, and actually you're going to end with fewer spells as well. So spell casting is going to be more consistent, and you're going to get less power from that. Another really important thing to note: these levels where you don't get any core features, those are going to be the levels where you get new spells, both in spell levels and where your spells known increase. So that's going to be at 5th level. At 9th level, you're going to get again a new third level spell, and at 11th level, you don't get anything really. 11th level actually. Well, you learn a new spell.
Yeah, you learn a new spell.
So it's really important that where you have those dead levels in class design, dead levels, there's something there. You don't get a feature, but you're going to get a new spell level, which means new spells, and that's very fun. So I think that's right off the bat, they've built a very solid starting place here.
The chassis looks healthy. It's these evolution points I think are going to be the big thing about this class, whatever those are. So we'll see what that does. But on
the capstone, it's called Sacrificial Pawn. Right off the bat, I'm just thinking that is a very brutal name for a feature for a class that like clearly is you could
Seems to
just
be
be
about
happy fun Pokemon.
seems to be about your friend.
Yeah,
Seems to be
maybe
about.
that
We'll
flavor
see what it
problem.
does. Yeah, that might be something like that might be something that can just be a slight flavor adjustment. We'll see what the ability, because I think like just like True Bond could have been like the same name of it, and it's just like your summon will jump in front of a attack for you. Uh,
Well, let's go through the class and see what these actually are.
all right, sure. Hit points, proficiencies, equipment. Want me to
Yeah,
take all that? I just whip it.
please take it away.
1d6 class, all of that, everything else there is standard. Proficiencies, you get light armor, medium armor, and shields. Oh, interesting. A lot of armor for a low
A 1d6
health.
spellcaster. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I guess you're not a caster actually, because you don't
you're,
really have a lot of spells.
you're a summoner, whatever that means. Simple weapons: rapiers, scimitars, short swords, whips, and hand crossbows. Very explorery. They recommended the Outlander background, and this is definitely the implication seems to be that you have to catch Pokemon with this. Saving throws, strength and wisdom, skills, choose 3 from animal handling, arcana, insight, medicine, nature, perception, religion, and survival. I don't fully understand religion, but the rest of them all track to me.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking at just the starting equipment. It seems pretty straightforward. You get simple weapons and maybe a shield. You get some chainmail or something. Just it's your generic. I'm kind of tough, despite my low hit points. Kind of
So
loadout.
so far, everything looks okay. Now I'm scared as we go into the first level feature.
The features, yeah. Summoning stones. Beginning at first level, you can turn the souls of certain monsters you kill, brutal, into magical items known as summoning stones. This process takes 2 mechanical steps: marking the creature, then killing the creature to turn it into a summoning stone. Creating summons. As a bonus action, you place your summoner's mark on a beast, plant, or monstrosity of size tiny to large with a challenge rating equal to 1/3 your level rounded down. You may do this 3 times per day. You cannot mark swarms of creatures. Whenever a marked creature within 60 feet of you dies, you can use your reaction to turn the creature's body into a summoner's stone. You do not need to be the person to kill the creature. You can only have a number of summoner's stones equals your wisdom modifier, minimum of 1. And if you gain a summoner's stone, if you gain a summoner's stone, if you're already at your limit, you must choose to destroy 1 stone. And then summoning summons. As an action, you can crush one of your summoner stones and summon the creature inside. The creature you summon counts as a party ally, and its turn is controlled by you immediately after you take your own turn. You can only summon 1 creature at a time. The creature is a reconstruction of the original creature that was used to make the summoner stone and has all the same features and abilities the creature had in life, with the exception of legendary actions the creature had. When summoned, it appears with full hit points and materializes in a place you choose within 60 feet of you or in the nearest unoccupied space.
10 feet.
If you within 10 feet, yep. If you take the attack action or cast a spell with a cast time of 1 action, your summon can't take the attack action on the same turn. Okay, a summoned creature disappears if it is reduced to 0 hit points, and it can't be summoned again until you complete a long rest. If you are knocked unconscious, your summon disappears and returns the summoner stone to being a summoner stone. A summon can be summoned and resummoned without limits, but it doesn't regain any of its hit points or other features dependent on rests until a short or long rest accordingly. Summons can't be healed with healing spells such as Cure Wounds or Healing Word, or magic items such as Healing Potions. First level, you can only control 1 summoned creature at a time. Okay. This is just Pokemon. It is just straight up Pokemon.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot.
So
here.
that's what they're trying to make.
There's a ton here. In terms of design, like, so do you want to start talking about it?
I know that we said that we weren't going to be talking about playability, but this fundamental design of you capture things and then control them has a massive playability issue of the stat blocks of the creature. That is a huge, huge issue. A lot of dungeon masters homebrew creatures. They might not have a stat block for the creature figured out. And I can see that being an immediate problem right off the bat. I don't know what its CR is. I made it. And I just did it on the fly.
It assumes a certain perfection in the DM. The
Yeah.
subclass does. Um,
Well, and even more so than that, there's a very frustrating, like, all right, I want to use this creature against you in the future, and now you just have it. So you know all of its abilities and cool features. So that kind of, oh, Pete, you have gone full robot on me.
oh, that's the way I like it.
Visually, you've gone visual robot. I want to refresh the page there. But yeah, there are some really big issues with that. I mean, there are a few races. I mean, not races, classes that like say, oh, you can summon a zombie. The dungeon master has a stat for this creature, or something like that. But there really are not a lot of them.
Yeah, the choice to make the summons not a. Frankly, I think the summons should just be choose a something of this challenge rating or lower rather than taking the thing that you encounter. Um,
It's funky. It also
um,
seems like a lot of the class at this point would also rely on you running into beasts, plants, and
yep.
monstrosities.
Also, your class is entirely assumed that you will encounter creatures of this nature. Already, I think that this can't ever get the playability point.
Yeah, I think fundamentally it is probably dead. But let's keep going because I think it'd be cool to like. I don't think it doesn't have the space point yet.
Agreed.
Even though, God,
It's close. Well, there's also just for design. I think some of the issue with this is the creating summons and summoning summons. I don't think the mechanics for doing it, other than like the lack of like the concept's a little bit dead on arrival. I don't think the mechanics for it are necessarily poorly done. Um,
mhm.
it really needs a druid style because this is a very complicated feature. It needs a druid style. Here is the core idea, and here are the bullets of all of the stipulations of that, rather than it just being a huge block of text. It would be a lot easier to parse. Um, but
Yeah.
like just
Let's keep going though.
benefit from some formatting there, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. There's also as much as there's going to be a lot of new kind of stuff in this. There's a lot of stuff here that there is established convention for that they have not followed through with in
Mhm.
terms of making it consistent. But let's talk starting stones. At first level, we start with one summoner stone. The summoner stone holds a small or medium-sized beast of challenge rating 1/4 or lower that cannot fly or swim. You may not choose swarms.
Okay, they give
Okay.
you one. That's a good idea.
Um,
It
and then
doesn't fully give you back that playability, but it's a little better than we were imagining it.
yeah, the playability issue is just that you can get anything.
Yep.
So it's the fundamental. Anyway, and then spell casting. This is their core. Okay, cool. Spell casting. As a summoner, use of your magical summoning stones has given you basic understanding of magic that can be used in combat to aid your summons in combat. Always proofread.
Um, yeah, funky phrasing. I don't think there's any reason to read any more of this. It's all standard. Um,
Yeah, probably.
Spells known. You just know your spells. It's like a sorcerer. You just know your spells. And
Yeah, and it's important because if you're a known caster here, which I assume means when you level up, you can swap them out, though it doesn't have that anywhere in here. Oh,
and
yeah, it has it for cantrips.
it weirdly doesn't for spells, but it's probably just an oversight.
That's probably a mistake.
Wisdom class,
Yeah, wisdom modifier is the ability.
which feels like should be charisma to me. Or like just
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's wisdom.
your leadership of your creatures seems like that would be something that would be a charisma based thing, but I guess because animal handling is wisdom, maybe that's why.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess. You want to take natural evolution, Pete? You want to take us on to the next real feature?
Sure. This is the core. I think this is the core thing, other than the summons, which is starting at second level. When you level up the summons, you currently have on you gain Okay, sorry. Starting at second level, when you level up, the summons you currently have on you gain certain benefits. You add an additional hit die and increase its hit points accordingly. Whenever you gain the ability score improvement class feature from the summoner class, your summons abilities also improve. Your summons can increase one ability score by your choice by 2, or can increase 2 ability scores by 1. Additionally, your summoners can increase an ability score above 20 using this feature, unless it has a step above 21 captured. 6th, 12th, 18th, you can improve the die of damage. For example, if you have a giant eagle that deals 1d6 slashing damage with the claws, it improves to 2d6. If you capture a new summon that is 1 CR below your current maximum CR, it gains all ability score increases and damage increases that start from the level where the CR becomes available. A rough way of saying that your creatures scale with you.
You add an additional hit die and its hit points increase accordingly. Okay, so this is just a really terribly written thing.
Terrible to track.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was what I was hoping for.
Goes absolutely down the drain. This would be a nightmare to actually.
Yeah, what I was hoping for was you'd like have a beast that like a summon that would like grow with you over time, and then you'd be like improving it. But yeah, this is I think kind of unplayable from that. Let's look
the
at
wording is very bad, Drogan. I completely agree.
I'm down to go up to Summoner's Bond, but then I'm down to just like I don't think there's a reason to go too much deeper into this because I just don't think it works. I'm interested in this artificial evolution, and I'd like to look at a couple of them, but I just don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, and actually, this is important because I think this is one of the cool things that makes this unique. Artificial evolution. Starting at 2nd level, you gain 2 evolution points, which you can spend on artificial evolutions. Artificial evolutions are abilities, powers, and upgrades you can purchase with evolution points and give to summons. Each artificial evolution applies to 1 summon, and each summon can have a maximum of 3 evolutions on it at a time. Artificial evolutions can be changed whenever the summoner gains a new level, but they are otherwise set. Evolution points cannot be saved. All the points must be spent whenever the summoner gains a level. Oh. That sounds terrible. Why would you do that? Hey, make a choice at this level, and if it's wrong, you're screwed. If you get a new creature, well, that sucks. You've already invested in your existing ones, idiot. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little harsh, and like,
I don't know.
In the same regard, this is, I think, exactly what we're talking about with the flavor point. This really didn't explain to me why you have what you're doing. It just kind of like has really moved it down into the mechanic of whenever you gain a level, you gain 2 evolution points. I don't really know what that means, and how this is like functioning with the person related to the creature.
And then they got their subclasses, which is Summoner Bond. Pete, you know what I'd like to look at just really quick? I think you're right. Improved Summoning and Sacrificial Pawn just don't matter at this point. Because there's so much complexity.
I am actually curious what Sacrificial Pawn does. I'm just going to read it for me.
Okay, well.
So it drops a...
Okay, well, when you fall in contact of at least 1 summon currently summoned, you can remove the summon and regain its challenge rating and hit points.
That's not very good.
Additionally, points, you can use your reaction to remove its CR and hit points and let it regain the similar hit points you just lost. CR is less than 1, you lose 1 hit point. Yeah, this is just bad.
Yeah, you can take damage for your thing, and it can take damage. It's wacky.
Okay. Let's look at these evolutions. It looks like this is just a way of juicing them up a little bit. 2 evolution points. They can gain a fly speed of 20. Okay. They can breathe in air and water. Let's see. They can cast a cantrip. They can have blind sight for 60 feet. Whoa.
That was really good.
Climbing speed, immunity to conditions. All right. Dark vision, elemental resistance, improved armor, which you can take multiple times to boost up the armor class of them. I don't think these are necessarily that wrong conceptually.
No, I think this is the part of this subclass that was the closest to like starting to hit on that summoner vibe.
Yeah, a single second level spell. It's interesting.
I'm interested in look at their spell list really quick here.
I'm thinking, just thinking, before we move on from these, I have a question for you, because one of the questions that we had in our deal breaker was, space, is there room for this in 5e? Is there room for this in 5e, or could you build this with the Artificer. Like, I know the Artificer already has a system for its infusions, and I could see there being like a build. Like, I know there's already the Battlesmith that has its Steel Defender, but I could totally see like this is a pet sub race, a subclass for the Artificer, and here are a bunch of special infusions, right, that you can use to juice up your pets.
In the way that this is done, I think that that's probably true. I
I'm
don't
not
like,
sure.
yeah, I don't like the flavor. Like my gut instinct is that I just like I don't want to be an artificer. I want to be a summoner. You know,
Yeah.
because that feels
Oh,
so
they're
different to
totally
me.
different tonal.
Um, which I don't know if tone to me is kind of enough to justify that difference
But
because
Pete, if you're a summoner,
artificer is
go.
such a specific tone.
But is the Artificer that you're thinking of the Artificer that throws Pokeballs at things and captures them? Because that's what this is.
Oh yeah. For this
So,
specifically, this is. I think you could justify this as an artificer. I'm talking about the idea of a summoner on the whole. I think the name summoner has gas to it still.
yeah. By the
And
way, if you
there's
if you
some
keep
things they're
looking
doing right here.
if you keep looking at the evolution, Pete, there's stuff like physical resistance, gaining resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, and regeneration. You gain 1d10 hit points at the start of each of its turn.
How much
But like
is
you
that
can't
stuff?
put that on a you can't. That's so strong. That
Yeah,
is
I
a
mean, it just
capstone fighter feature, is regeneration. And it only works when they're under half hit points of the
yeah, it's
champion fighter.
a little, it's a little bunk.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives true sight. You can get true sight at like third level with it, or fourth level or
Okay.
whatever with this. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a misunderstanding of the cost thing being equivalent to say um,
Well,
like a level gating. Some of the stuff
yeah.
just needs a level gating.
I can see this as being valuable if everyone's playing a summoner and everyone's okay with these very complex rules and they just want to play Pokemon. And they're using Dungeons and Dragons to play Pokemon, in which case I think this is great. I think they did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah,
It's just
it's decent.
in the context of being played with other Dungeons and Dragons classes.
Oh yeah, this is way too specific.
No.
The way that this was done was not really. It was designed to do Pokemon and not to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Not these classes.
frankly, not to do summoning as well.
Yeah. What do you think of the? Pete, you looked at the spell list. Any thoughts on it?
It's not what I expected. It kind of goes against what they said in their little spell tag, which was that it's to help their beasts, and it's just like spells. The first level
It's like
spells,
shield and sleep.
yeah.
Mage armor works. You can armor your pets.
I think Mage Armor is self cast only.
Nope, you can cast on other people.
Are you sure?
Yep. Positive.
Maybe I'm thinking of just the war. I'm probably thinking of just the Armor of Shadows from Warlock or something.
Yep.
Because that's basically the only time I use Mage Armor is when I have Armor of Shadows.
Beings. Like, just, here's some summoning spells that already exist in the game. Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, right?
Yeah, throw stuff that's just kind of, shoehorned in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought that there would be play. That's one of the things I was expecting to see from this, was playing into those existing summoning spells. Like, I thought the archetype was going to be like... I thought the archetype was going to be like, you can summon some stuff, like you can make some basic stuff, and then I thought like the subclass would be, here's the main thing that you summon.
And then... that's what I thought as well. Yeah, like, hey, I'm a summoner, and my subclass, because I think that, going back, forget the subclass. Let's go to our where is it? Our rubric. In terms of space, there's room for a summoner, and there's even subcategories under it. I'm a summoner, my focus is aberrations. I'm a summoner, my focus is monstrosity. I'm a summoner, my focus is oozes. That's a huge, like,
I thought that was like a really obvious way to divvy this thing up.
Well, I think they did do that with their subclasses. Like when we go down to here,
their subclasses are actually more how they alter their summons. It's like, we all have the same summons, but like, I'm a guardian summoner, so I give my summons defensive features, or I'm an element summoner, so I give my summoners elemental features, which I don't think is that strong of a binding agent for them.
Yeah, that runs out of gas real quick.
Very, very quickly. I mean, you can keep coming up with stuff, but it's not like as cohesive as I really like the idea being. Grogan says right there, I'm a summoner, my focus is bugs, which is obviously very Pokemon in of itself, but that like works really well for me too.
It's almost like they could have gone more into it, right? Like,
and that would have like sold me, I think, a little bit more if that was the direction.
Yeah.
I think the core problem with this design is that it didn't make the summons intrinsic to the class, but made them like extrinsic to the DM, putting them forth. And so, in that regard, I think doesn't work.
Oh God, here's a new problem. Necromancer at 3rd level, you can capture and summon undead and humanoids.
Is that everyone?
No, that's in the Bond of Souls.
That's pretty fucked up. I throw a Pokeball at my friend. I guess that would probably never work because it'd be the same level or something. But still,
it's just like, okay, bud.
Anyway, let's talk about the rubric really quick. This can't function, so therefore it cannot get a rating. It's just nothing.
Yeah, kind of a bummer. We're always hoping it would have.
Yeah, well, it's the highest upvoted. I think this got 4,000 upvotes on Reddit, and
understandable. People want to play Pokemon. Like,
well, like the comments were stuff like, "I've been really enjoying watching this evolve and get better." So I was really hoping that we'd see a solid class. I want to look at another one though, which also had a lot of promise. Rather than
Frosty Pirate, I'm gonna make a full class and for Lich's Lair. Give me 2 weeks. All right, Frosty. So that's gonna be the 4th. See you on the 4th.
I'll 1v1 you, Frosty. I'll make sure I have my class done by then. I'll battle you.
Where the hell is the shiny black pudding? I'm with you, Shinhal. Where's my shiny black pudding? Yeah, I think because I made it.
Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna look at the occultist now.
The occultist. I'm cautiously optimistic still about the occultist.
Mm-hmm. Well, they let's see. Do they have at the bottom? Did they credit their artist somewhere? Oh, they did.
Oh my God, there's a lot of stuff here.
Oh my goodness. And it's their art. They made it. They drew all this art.
Oh fuck. Damn.
Oh damn. All right. Already huge props and very cool.
Hey Jeremy. I can't find it. The link's not working for me. Why can't I open it?
Pete, what have you done?
I just clicked on it and it.
All right, Pete. Well, Pete tries to figure out what this is.
I got it. That was weird. I don't know what happened to me there. Do you want to read the opening here?
Created by user Kibbles Tasty on Reddit. Kibbles, thank you for creating this. Let's go see how it is. Occultist. Yeah, wisps of purple smoke and dancing shadows rise from the ritual as the young human woman, with strange magical markings tattooed across her hands, whispers words in a language long forgotten, calling forth ancient powers. The woods creak and bend, black wings beating as a raven alights on the outstretched hand of an ancient elf, her eyes as black as the raven's. Soft words are spoken, and the elf nods in agreement. A young orc lets out a bellowing roar and flames burst into a form taller than an ogre, causing her enemies to flee. She holds up her spear, and the flames pour from the roaring fire spirit to it, swirling around it, causing it to roar alight with searing magical flames. The mysterious halfling woman gives a knowing smile, her unseen eyes focused on you. She knows what you've come for and tosses a handful of incense into the fire. What it is she sees in there, your fate, your destiny. As she speaks, it is only in riddle. Occultists are those who follow the old ways, a path of ritual and wisdom long known, yet oft forgotten. They are rather than force magic to obey, they bind, twist, and manipulate and compromise with it. They follow ancient agreements and techniques to produce results that few fully understand, even those who use them. But they know it will work, for it always has.
Oh, bravo.
Very cool.
That was wonderful. In particularly, I'm not like some of the openers I was cool with, but that last sentence, that wrap up of occultist was excellent.
Yep. Now,
I'm
everybody's saying in the chat already, occultist, you mean the warlock? It feels way similar. Everybody, I don't know how you can say it feels way similar when we hadn't read any of it yet.
yeah, just by name.
Change my mind. I mean, listen to it, and we'll
change your own mind. Let them, figure out what it does for it. That's a really great. I want to just read that one more time, just for myself.
They follow ancient agreements and techniques to produce results that few fully understand, even those that use them. But they know it will work, for it always has.
That's so good. Damn, I love that flavor. So anyway, I'm really into, like, that's a very strong selling point for me so far. I'm gonna do ancient traditions here. Occultists are spellcasters following legacies that go far back. While they may or may not be directly tutored or influenced by another member of their tradition, their path to magic involves unearthing ancient secrets, old ways, and knowledge gleaned from spirits, ghosts, and elementals. They often personify aspects of their magic in ways that other casters find odd, coaxing and manipulating magic forces by ancient laws and bargains. Occultists tread between the arcane and the divine, not necessarily worshipping any god, but treating gods and spirits alike with cautious respect for their domains, asking for the what they take and carefully giving thought to their actions. Each tradition that appears in the occultist is an ancient legacy of magic found deep within folklore and story. Every villager could tell you stories of occultists and their traditions, and they are often seen in this context. Though villagers and the superstitious might fear them and their magic, they may be more likely to turn to them than a wizard, for at least an occultist makes sense to them, even if they are scared by their powers.
All right. Spiritual magic. A common thread of magic wielded by the occultist is the spiritual connection of it. The demi-divine nature of magic that taps into the weave of magic oft through the intermediaries of the power of gods, spirits, elementals, and more. An occultist is fundamentally tied to the greater magical world, being neither a source of magic nor an academic researcher of it, but wielding it through intuition, cunning, and tradition. Frequently, an occultist may call upon their magic through the mediums of spirits quite directly, even having names for spirits it calls, to bring about certain magical effects. The verbal components of an occult spell might be the spirits that they call upon to work the effect they wish, an invocation of their ancient bargain, or words in a language that binds or persuades. And yeah. So
we got the table first.
I was saying, before we move on from there, Pete, what do you think right off the bat about what they're going for? Because I think everybody has a very valid point. We're talking about mystic, ancient stuff. Do we think that we've gone, this is a different enough direction to not be the warlock?
It's unquestionably true for me personally. This is something that
hags.
Yep. As I'm a big hag fan, and when I think of hags, I think of witches, and this is actually a lot closer to a witch than it is to a hag in the D&D sense. And what I like about hags is that they're witches. So this is actually closer to what I like about witches and hags than D&D even gets it. Also, shamans and oracles. I looked ahead at the subclasses, and those are the 3 core subclasses that they start off with, which are witch, shaman, and oracle, and all of those things are distinct. And also, I don't think
none of them sound like warlocks to me.
Yeah, I don't think that any of those could be a warlock. Like, an oracle isn't something that has a particular patron. It's just someone that is attuned with the powers that be and understand them. So, I don't know. This seems like it has gas to me.
I agree.
But we'll see. Cautiously optimistic as I say that.
Yeah, let's jump right into this first feature. I'm not first feature, this class list. Once again, this looks like it's a full caster here, going up to 9th level spells. I'm going to presume it follows a casting progression But if you guys in chat see something different, let me know if something seems off
it
about
seems
these
to, yeah.
spells per level. Let's see. We've got 2 features at first level, a feature at second level, feature at third level, which that gives the occult tradition. I think that's a great name for the subclass. Fourth level's ability scores, eighth level ability scores, normal ability scores. Our off levels are where we see spell level
raises.
increases. So that makes perfect sense to me. There's no qualms with any of them.
The old ways is they love that phrase, the old ways, because it's great, and they have it here as their capstone.
Great capstone name.
Occult rights.
Occult rights. I wonder how similar those will be to invocations.
And I imagine that they'll be pretty similar. I mean, that seems like.
Yeah.
We'll see. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
It follows the same invocation progression. So I wonder if that's a question. Is this just a full level warlock execution?
Yeah, it's interesting if it's a reskinned warlock.
Yeah. Spells knows way more
from
spells,
a design standpoint. Occult tradition is at 1, 3, 6, 14.
Okay.
That's not the same as the warlock. No.
Oh no, it's not. Yeah, 1, 3, 6, 14. It's not.
I don't.
No, you're right, because Pact Boon's at third level. Right. The 614 is though. Oh, but there's a 10th level. Anyway, let's start walking through. Everybody, you're making these crazy claims.
Why are you fighting so hard? We don't know anything about this. We'll see what it is.
Like your mind, man.
When creating an occultist, the most important decision will be what tradition you follow. Each tradition of an occultist is distinct with divergent flavor and calling upon different aspects of folklore. Do you embody the associations, or defy them? What led you to this path? Did you uncover your tradition on your own, or were you taught by another? You can make an occultist by following these suggestions. First, wisdom should be your highest ability score, followed by constitution or dexterity. Second, choose the hermit background. Third, choose the poison spray, produce flame cantrips, along with the first level spells Burning Hands, Cause Fear, Cure Wounds, and Tasha's Hideous Laughter. They chose to go with Cause Fear, which is a extended universe.
And we're calling it the extended universe, Dungeons and Dragons.
That's an easy way to say it.
I like those questions that they had. I think those are actually useful questions to to think about. You know what I mean?
You want to do the bones here?
Bones. It's a D6 D6 hit point class. Makes perfect sense. Nothing surprising there. Armor efficiency, none. Makes perfect sense for a full caster. Weapons, daggers. I'm sorry, daggers, quarterstaffs, light crossbows. Yeah, well, it's just perfectly fine. Herbalism kit. That makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering if there are other tools that they could have gone with, but I think herbalism kit's a very good catch-all.
It's probably the best one.
Wisdom and charisma. Those make perfect sense. I'm kind of surprised. I hope we see more with charisma in this class, besides just wisdom. I think wisdom's important, but I'd like to see it really be dependent on both of those scores, just because that makes a lot of sense to me. And then skills. Yeah, it's a bunch of skills you choose to. It makes perfect sense.
Good picks for spells. Like, I was really bummed if medicine wasn't in there. Like, medicine felt very right. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm interested in the arcane focus. It does have an arcane focus. Okay. Is an interesting nuance about arcane focus where that doesn't matter. This can use an arcane focus. There's funkiness. The classes that can use an arcane focus are actually defined in the definition of arcane focus, not in the classes, which is stupid.
That's like a problem with the design of 5e more than it is with this class.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I really like the component pouch though. I would almost prefer it if it were a component pouch class, just because that, I don't know, that sounds right.
Occult fetish. You can use an occult fetish as a spellcasting focus for your occultist spell. So it looks like they made their own thing for it. To like get around that.
yeah, it's like a skull, right, or a Ouija board, or
Also, pretty good pick by them that they thought of that too. Like I would have that would have gone right over my head. I would not have remembered to make my own
oh
spellcasting
yeah,
focus.
and they have it up there. You can use an occult fetish spellcasting focus for your occultist spells.
Yeah,
What about
good on them.
power to them?
Uh,
All right.
so anyway, you know your spells. It's a known spells class. It's
Yeah, it's the
wisdom,
same as
and the ritual casters. They had to be ritual casters, obviously. This is the most ritually of all classes.
Very cool art. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this occult tradition, Pete. You want to take us away?
Yeah. Well, this is the subclass right off the bat here.
Choosing occult tradition, shaping of the techniques and the rites available to you from the following: Oracle, Shaman, or Witch. Gain features at 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 14th.
Do we want to skip ahead and look at like what kind of, or do you? It's kind of tough to know.
Let's start with occult rites. Let's just go through as it's formatted. I think it's
okay. I'm just worried that like there's information that's going to be assumed in the. We'll look and see if we get confused with occult rites.
It should be clear. That's part of our design point.
Is that true on all classes? Anyway, aside the point. As you delve, I think it's meant to say as you delve into your tradition of occult magic, you find deviations and branches to explore that help you specialize and perfect your craft in the way that best suits you. At 2nd level, you gain 2 occult rites of your choice. Your occult rites options are detailed at the end of the subclass description for subclass-specific rites, and at the end of the class description for general rites. You can select from either your subclass or class list. When you gain certain occultist levels, you gain additional occult rites of your choice. Additionally, when you gain a level in this class, you can choose one of the occult rites you know and replace it with another occult rites that you can learn at that level. Level prerequisite is an occult rite, refers to occultist level, not character level. Cool.
And each subclass has specific rights that they can select, and for each subclass, these are added to the pool of rights they can pick. All right, it's the same thing. I don't think they needed that sidebar because they said it in the text. Ability score improvement, simple. Tradition expertise. Starting at 10th level, you'll pass down knowledge of tradition, gives you expertise in a skill of your tradition. Choose one from your skill proficiencies from animal handling, arcana, medicine, nature, survival. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any check. Use the chosen proficiency. Proficiency in none of the selected skills, you instead gain proficiency in one of your choice. Additionally, when you make a wisdom check, you can draw upon your tradition and expend a 1st level spell slot to gain advantage on the check. Okay, I really like that mechanic. I think that's really cool. You can expend a spell slot to give you advantage on one of these specific, or wisdom specific ability check. I think that's pretty cool.
It's interesting that they put Arcana in there, but did not give you the ability to get advantage on an Arcana check.
Yeah, it's strange.
A little bit misleading in that design.
Yeah, I think what they could say is rather than wisdom ability check, one of those proficiencies, you could say Arcana, medicine, nature, or survival, or animal handling, Arcana, nature, medicine, or survival. Maybe. I think maybe that would have been a better direction to go, but I think it's still a cool mechanic. I like it a lot.
I do too.
I've also noticed right off the bat, man, this is such a. I guess it depends on how good their spells are, but I think this is going to have so much of its balance, its power in its subclasses compared to its core class.
Yep, for sure. But let's look at the 20th level. The old ways and the spell list as well is going to be such a big one.
Yeah.
Well, V-Bunny, you wanted expertise in stealth or in persuasion. Well, that's not really like the flavor of the class is the difference. The reason why they picked those skills was because you're meant to be sort of this like guiding figure, and those are things that could be influenced mystically, you know. Stealth, I can see like a divine intervention giving you power over stealth, but I don't see communing with the spirits as much. I don't know, the flavor really tracks for me.
I would agree.
The old ways is the 20th level feature here. At 20th level, your master of ritual and tradition is extensive and unparalleled. You've unlocked ancient secrets and perfected techniques to master rituals completely. Any occultist spell you know of 3rd level or lower becomes a ritual spell for you. When you cast a spell that is not normally a ritual as a ritual, it requires additional consumed material components worth 10 gold per level of the spell. Additionally, your mastery of rituals allows you to work them more quickly, and a spell only takes additional turns equal to the spell's level to cast. For example, casting a 3rd level spell as a ritual would take 4 turns to cast, casting as your action or bonus action on the 4th turn. Spells with a casting time of reaction cannot be cast as a ritual. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool, interesting mechanic. I do like it. I think there needs to be like
It's very much
just a
going to
little
play
weird
into
with the bonus action part.
I think the implication is that if it's a bonus action spell, you
So do
cast
you
it as
just
a
have to
bonus
do
action.
the bonus action for 4 turns?
I think you take your action for 4 turns, but then you cast it still as a bonus action. Is the intended design?
Yeah, not clear is I guess what I'm getting at. I
Yeah.
don't think it's.
Yeah, there's definitely there's language touch up that could use for sure.
Cool mechanic though. Very cool 20th level feature. And then
Wang, I don't understand what ritual spells are. Okay, just very brief for your reference. Ritual spells are spells. Certain spells in 5e have the tag called the ritual tag, which means you can do a special casting of them if the class allows you to do so. So wizards, for example, are ritual casters, which means instead of casting the spell using a spell slot, you can spend an extra 10 minutes and cast the spell for free. So it's stuff that you can like go through a very intense process to do it, but it doesn't require like an expenditure of your magical energy. And that's what a ritual spell is. Detect magic is an example. Speak with animals is an example. Lots of spells in 5e have the ritual tag. And then we're on to the subclasses, which is definitely looks that power is going to be in these subclasses and occult rites.
yeah, okay. Can I take this one, Pete?
Yeah, take the oracle here.
Yeah, so an oracle is an occultist whose power comes to them from their connection to fate. Bound and empowered oracles carry some piece of divine mystery with them, tied to an aspect of destiny and fate. As their power grows, they begin to understand this mysterious revelations, unlocking its secrets and the power they contain. An oracle typically does not directly serve a god. Rather, they are people whose fate has entangled them in the affairs of the gods. Oracles have great power, but their powers are not ones the mortals were meant to have, and consequently, they are frequently burdened by their power. All right. Divine Touch. At first level, when you select this tradition, you have been touched by a divine relationship that has given you a gift of insight and dramatic flair to deliver it, and you learn the cantrip's guidance and thaumaturgy. Additionally, the touch of revelation has opened new pathways of magic that lie beyond the mortal grasp. When you use your spellcasting feature, whenever your spellcasting feature lets you learn an occultist cantrip or an occultist spell of 1st level or higher, you can choose the new spell from the cleric list or the occultist spell list. And you must obey all the restrictions for selecting the spell, and it becomes an occult spell for you. For some, this burden marks them more heavily. At the discretion of your DM, you can optionally select a curse and corresponding boon from the cursed burden section.
I don't know if we want to go into this cursed burden thing. That just seems like a fun thing that they thought of, but
yeah,
let's look. I think it's better to look at the subclass and kind of on its own here.
I agree. It seems like some extra complications. Like you're blinded, but you have this whatever thing that gives you this right that gives you special sight. So whatever. Worry about that later. You want to take fate reading?
There's a lot of traditional flavor, and it looks like they're just touching on oracles in mythology and I guess history to some extent. But fate reading, starting at 3rd level, your connection to the flow of fate gives you the ability to read from it, tracing outcomes and glimpsing the unknowable future. You learn this spell augury and can cast it at will without expending a spell slot.
That's an interesting feature. I like.
How do you like that feature, Jeremy?
Great feature.
Yeah, you like that one?
Yeah, I think it's really good.
I don't know. Seems kind of busted to me. I'm joking because Jeremy designed the thing that had that exact feature. It's not busted. It's a good feature. I realized that might sound like it was my actual opinion. You want to do an enlightened understanding?
Yeah, starting at 6th level, you've come to unravel the mysteries of magic and fate, understanding their secrets and potential. Whenever you use A mystery, you gain temporary hit points equal to your wisdom modifier. All right, I don't know what mysteries are yet, but wait.
There are special oracle.
Rights that
There are
give you
special
mystery.
oracle rights called mysteries.
Okay, so starting at 14th level, you cast Augury a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier per day before it starts having a chance at returning random answers. Okay, that's
It's a little funky.
different. Don't like that. Additionally, when you divine the future with Augury, you can issue a cryptic prophecy with 3 specific points for rolls that may occur within the next 30 minutes. For each point you prophesize, if you specify only the type of roll, for example, an attack, a strength, athletics check, or initiative roll, etc., a d4 is reserved. For example, someone will be particularly quick when rolling initiative. If you specify a specific action and a specific person, a d6 is reserved. Okay, so when Caius rolls for initiative, he'll be unusually quick. If you give a specific unlikely condition, a d8 can be reserved. I see. So the idea is you pick a couple of specific things. Initiative is rolled, a specific check is rolled, or attack is made, or a person and a thing. Okay.
Okay.
Well, action can only have one prophesized event, and if that prophesized event takes place, the oracle can spend the reserved die and add it to the roll. If multiple events trigger the prophecy, the oracle can select which of them is affected by the reserved die.
Okay. Here's what
This is not as complicated, I think, as it seems like it is.
This seems okay. This is a little wacky, and it's a really weird design. It also seems so fun to do as a player.
I agree.
Me as a player really wants to use prophecy. I want to close my eyes at the table and just be like,
Peter,
David, you're totally going to beef it on a roll late. Doesn't that sound so fun with your friends at the table, regardless of the mechanics of this?
It's a complicated feature. I'm sorry, it is a seemingly complicated feature, but I think it's complicated in the same way that spell attack rolls are complicated, right? It's I've only played a fighter. How do I attack with my spells? Well, you add your wisdom and then you add your proficiency bonus. But okay, and they do that and they figure it out and they're like, oh, but now I'm a wizard. Why don't I add my wisdom? Right? Oh no, it's your intelligence because you're a wizard, right? Once you understand the basic premise of it, this is really straightforward. The only issue is just, I don't know, actually, there's so little DM discretion in here. There is some, but
it just seems so fun. Frosty Pirate is exactly it. You've exactly done there's just something about this that just seems so funny. That just seems so funny to do with your buddies at the table.
I agree.
I like how this has the potential for either extreme steeriness or extreme silliness. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I really like this, and I'm blinded to any mechanics of it right now because I'm just enjoying the idea of it so much. But I think you're right. I think it's less complicated than it looks. Still, maybe a little bit inelegant in some of the phrasing in places.
But once you've read it through once, it makes total sense. It's hard to read, but once you've read it, you completely understand it.
The thing that I think this needs is the augury a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier before it starts having a chance to return random answers.
That needs to go. That I don't.
Yeah, this seems like it should just be you get to do this once a day.
Yeah, well, I mean,
or maybe a number of times, or when you cast augury.
I thought you could just do this once per short rest or something.
No, you can do it every time you cast augury.
Oh, that's dumb. Just make it once per short rest.
It should just be I don't think tie it to the augury thing and just make it every once in a while.
Yeah. All right, so that's pretty cool. Let's talk about now these oracle specific rights. So we got to really focus on mysteries because whenever you use a mystery, you gain 10 hit points. So
hold on one second.
Okay.
I just want to see. Okay, here's something crazy about this class. For one thing, I'm skipping ahead. It looks like there are an immense number of custom spells that have been made for this class that are a part of the spell list. But I also wanted to say, because it says Oracle-specific rights, I wanted to see if there was like a list of rights somewhere that weren't Oracle-specific, so we could also look at those, but I'm
Oh,
not.
there are a lot of spells, yeah. There are an absolute ton of spells. Jeez. All right, we're not gonna look at those spells.
Yeah, no.
We're just not even gonna consider this. Jesus. By the way, I took a couple moments and I checked. This person, Kibbles Tasty, I've I'd heard about them before because they were the first one to make a really good Artificer before the Artificer was an actual class.
It
You
shows.
can find them on their website, kthomebrew.com. And yeah, they've got tons of stuff on here. It is wild, the trove of good things that they've got. So, very cool.
Okay, anyway, I can't find just a path of general rights, so I guess why don't we just...
Yeah, let's just dig through these.
Yeah.
Divine Fate. You expand your expertise of reading Fate to be able to more specifically divine information from your readings, learning additional and more specific spells. You learn the following spells at the following levels, and these are cultist spells for you. Cool. Some extra spells: identify, locate object, clairvoyance, locate creature, legend lore. Those all make sense to me. Oracle's Blind Sight. You gain blind sight out to a range of 15 feet. And if you're affected by the blinding condition for more than a minute, the range of this sight is doubled when you're affected by the blinding condition. Okay. Sure.
Neat.
That's a little complicated, but fine. Divine Sight, requisite 15th level. If you have Blind Sight, you gain True Sight with a range equal to your Blind Sight. Okay.
Fine for
Twin Mystery. Aha, it's a mystery. Whenever you cast a spell that invokes a mystery, oh god. You can invoke 2 different mysteries at the same time as long as the spell fills both mysteries' requirements. And then here are the mysteries. All right.
Let me take Mystery of Life here. Your powers are tied to the nature of life and its ever-shifting balance. When you cast a spell of first level or higher, you can heal a creature other than yourself within 30 feet of you for a number of hit points up to your occultist level. Your current hit points are reduced by an amount equal to the amount you heal the target of the mystery for. You can only use this ability on creatures that have vibrant life pulsing within them. It does not work on undead, constructs, or creatures at 0 hit points. Revelation of Life. Prerequisite Mystery of Life. Your understanding of the nature of life unlocks its secrets for you. You learn the following spells at the following levels. They are occultist spells for you. Bunch of healing stuff. This also ties into Revelation of Life. Oh wait, so this is like a triple progression. All living things, when you expend a spell slot to cast a spell that restores hit points to a creature, you gain hit points equal to your wisdom modifier. If you kill a creature within 10 feet of a creature as it dies, you take necrotic damage equal to its CR or character level if it has no CR. This is not triggered if the creature is an undead or construct. Okay.
Okay, well, I think we can kind of stop for a second here because
extrapolate these other mysteries, yeah.
These got this. Okay, and it's just more mysteries, and that's the end of the occultist. Let's look at it just in the occultist perspective right now. Actually, can we get a spell list? Is there a spell list down here?
Yeah,
there is. Right. And actually, are there? Hopefully, there are other rights somewhere. Oh yeah, here are the general occultist rights, Pete, just above the spell list. I think we should probably actually look at those.
The regular rights. Oh, great.
Yeah,
great. We can finally look at a full picture of this class now.
Yeah, you can proceed with the alchemy tools, and during a long rest, you can use them to concoct an improvised potion of healing, spending 1 hour of the long rest to tend to its simmering. Due to its improvised nature, it expires in 24 hours and has no value. During this process, you can expend a 5th level spell to make it a greater healing potion. The expended spell slot is regained when the long rest is completed as normal. Okay. Blood rituals, 5th level occultist. Whenever you create a ritual, require a ritual component, you can instead use blood. Willing living creatures within 10 feet can expend hit dice, rolling them and taking damage equal to the value rolled. to fuel the ritual instead of material component. With each 10 hit points after this mana, able to replace up to 100 gold of material components. I.e., to replace a diamond with 500 gold, 50 hit points would have to be expended in this manner. Creatures that lose hit points in this way cannot regain those hit points until they complete a long rest. I actually really love that. That's pretty cool.
12-sided guy, Vader voice. I find this lack of bits disturbing. 100 bits. 12-sided guy, thank you so much for the thank you so much for the bits. A heart to you as well.
Much appreciated.
I'm sorry, let me do it, but I find this lack of... I can't do a good James L. Jones. I find this lack of bits disturbing.
No, I can't do it either.
Yeah, it's not like... It's just because James Earl Jones has an incredible voice. That's why that line sounds so good.
Pete, you want to talk about corrupt item?
I would love to. That's a great name. I don't know if it's you get a corrupt item or you corrupt an item, but I hope it's the latter. You use a dark... this is a 5th level thing. You use a dark and secret right to corrupt a non-magical item. I was right! It was the one I wanted, causing it to become a cursed magic item. While any creature other than you is in possession of this item, they are under the effect of Bane. Select one of the following for the item's magical property. The item must be of a type the item that could be a magical item selected. Bag of Tricks, Brooch of Shielding, Goggles of Night, Lantern of Revealing, or Staff of the Python. You can ignore attunement restrictions of this item. When you change rights, you can reselect this right to destroy the item and create a new item. You get just a cursed magic item. Okay, that's... cool.
Okay, so you just get one of those items and it is cursed. I get it. Cool.
Yeah. Commune Beyond Death. You gain the Speak with Dead spell, and it's an occultist spell for you. You can cast it without expending a spell slot. Once you cast it, you have to finish a short or long rest before you cast it again. Makes a lot of sense.
So these, before we keep going, I think these are distinctly different than what we see in a lot of these vocations, actually.
There are some that are, and some that are, for example, there's one that just gives you the haste spell, like a warlock one. Which is the worst. Like they did. That's why you adopt the worst thing in warlock, which is the just get a spell things. That they don't give you a free cast of it.
Bummer.
But for the most part, yes, I agree. These are decidedly distinct, and they definitely feel like rights, which is good.
Yeah.
Very cool. Honestly, I really like a lot of this.
So I think the big question here, because now we go to the spell list, and we can see that all of these marked with like the little degree symbol are homebrew spells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe let's look at the spell list, Pete, and try and consider it without the homebrew ones listed.
Okay. Man, they homebrewed a lot of spells. Also, V-Bunny, this is actually pretty good, a bit complicated, but good, and definitely not completely the same as the Warlock. I think it's different enough. I'm glad to hear the change of heart, V-Bunny, now that we've had some time to really get into it. And we're so close to actually finally being able to talk about the class on the whole.
It's a lot of spells.
Let's just both... we're going to take a moment here and read through this in silence, I think, because I just don't want to say the names of a bunch of spells out loud, because I don't think that's a fun listening experience.
It's got combat spells, right? It's got like Chill Touch and like Lightning Lure. It's got Dancing Lights, which are utility things, and Guidance. It's got a huge spell list. It's got everything. Like,
while you look through it, I also want to go back and read like the start of the other classes and see if the other classes get another huge chunk of spells too. Because that Oracle also got the Cleric spell list.
Yeah, wild. Inflict Wounds, Cure Wounds, Dissonant Whispers, which is very good spell. Absorb Elements, some very solid.
The Shaman does not get extra spells, so that's an Oracle specific thing, it looks like.
Yeah, and this feels like too many spells. I think I'm with you, Frosty, but I'm not. I don't know. It's been so long since I've like opened the player's handbook and looked at what the spell lists actually are for something. This feels to me comparable, probably, to what the wizard spell list is, but I'm not sure.
Rain of Spiders is one of their custom spells, and I kind of I low key want to read Rain of Spiders.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Deafness.
This is a lot.
dark vision, enhanced ability, healing spirit. Yeah, they just got a whole. It's a
It's
whole
like
bunch. It might be too much.
here's the thing: is all of these spells do like I haven't read one. Maybe the first one I'm reading here that feels a little off is mirror image. Doesn't really feel like that's something that this should be able to do. But for the most part, the spells that they're picking do feel in line. Is the spell's
Like,
known
okay,
progression the same as the
there are
sorcerer?
39 first level cleric spells. I mean, not cleric, wizard spells. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Are you not counting the custom ones?
There are 33, including all of the custom spells for the occultist. Plus, yeah, that's a lot. That's
a lot.
I think too much. I don't think you should be coming close to the wizard.
I think it would be more okay if their known spells were a little bit tighter and they only got to pick a few, but they got a lot of options. I'd be kind of okay with that.
Well, it's a known class, isn't it? So you pick and then know the spells. You don't get to prepare, do you?
Yeah, this isn't a prepare thing.
All right. Maybe it's okay.
I don't know. It's just a question of like, is it bad? Like, is it bad for a class design? Like, is it powerful to have options in choice when you're not dealing with prepare? Like, I don't know if it actually is. It's just like, it's the individual spells, I think, rather than the quantity of them.
Yeah, I mean, like for perspective, dude.
Because having illusory script is an
13
option.
spells.
Yeah, Warlock needs more spells. They should give more spells to the Warlock.
Sorcerer has 26 spells, so this has more than the Sorcerer.
Is that? Cleric. But with the custom spells out of it, it's pretty close 16. To the Sorcerer.
Cleric has 16 first level spells. What about the Bard?
I don't know. There's some here that I would cut. But
23. Yeah, I think there's just too many.
There's definitely some stuff that needs to be cut. Like Disguise Self, that doesn't actually... The stuff that's very arcane, like creating illusions and... like identifies a ritual, so I get why they did that. But like illusory script, that doesn't really feel like it's appropriate, even though I think that is also a ritual.
That's a big question. I think overall, though, what we don't see here is really what I was looking for. I don't see Fireball. I don't see Lightning Bolt. Slow is here, which is a very good spell, as is Spirit Guardian, which is an incredibly good spell. So, I mean, I think we'd see a lot of powers coming from the spell list. Very much.
Yeah, they get good options.
And I think that's where we can start, Pete. Let's start talking about this one.
Great.
Let's start talking.
Let's run rubric.
Rubric. Space. Is there room for this in 5e?
Unquestionably. Yeah, this gets me the space point for me.
Balance. Is it technically balanced? I think they made a really, 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 weight light core chassis where most of the power is coming from their huge spell variety and power in those spells. There's really not a lot of oomph out of everything else in terms of like combat effectiveness.
Those rights aren't particularly intimidating.
Yeah,
like we were looking at that one. What was it like? You get to heal a little bit whenever you cast a spell.
Yeah,
that's not that crazy. The other stuff, like you get a free casting, like some extra spell casts a little bit.
Yep.
From some stuff like.
It seems good to me. The balance seems there, actually.
My instinct is that the balance is there as well.
Yeah. Playability. This has a crippling playability issue. Actually has two. One, it's very complex. There's like when we were just looking at those mysteries, and maybe that's a design problem.
I was gonna put that I wanted to talk about that in design.
But that's a problem, and I honestly do believe there's a playability issue in this class that since so much of its power is actually not in the subclass, not in the class, but it's in its rights and spells, that there's a problem where you pick the wrong rights and the wrong spells and you suck. And you're just really bad. And I think that's a pretty serious design issue. Maybe it's a design issue. Actually.
Yeah, I think that's also a design issue. I think just not doing a good job building it, because I think you could kind of do a bad job with most classes and make something that isn't good.
I don't know.
But like, and
I don't know, but you're
in a more complicated class, in a more complicated class, like the Warlock, for example, I've seen people make some pretty
I was gonna say it has the Warlock problem.
Atrocious Warlocks. But I don't think that we would want to knock this playability for a problem that's already been established as this is kind of okay in 5e design.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's a question of philosophy.
I think it's okay to say that was a problem and it's still a problem, you know? Like
I don't think that. Okay, let me rephrase it then. I don't think it's right to not design an intricate class because it has the potential for people to play it poorly. I would rather see this option available for people who are interested in something like this, and like I wouldn't want this to not be made because people might mess it up.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have it, that it doesn't have legs, and that it's not cool. I'm just saying from a playability perspective, in the way that 5e has been designed, like I don't know. I think that's a problem, and I think it would be wrong to not dock it somewhere. That it is a quote unquote trap class.
Yeah, well, I think you dock that in design, but I don't think it's I don't think of that as a playability issue. I think of that as fair. There's a degree of intricacy here that makes it a little bit overwhelming. Which
I'm fine with that. I think you're right.
Yeah,
because you're right. It's not. It wouldn't
be talking
play, and it doesn't have features that would be particularly frustrating. I don't believe. There's some arguments maybe to be made about that blood right with the material components. It's like, hey guys, I need fucking hit points to cast my spell. Give me your hit dice, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's and we didn't read everything. I guarantee you there's other little stuff like that. Yeah. But it's pretty good though. Like, I don't know. On the whole, I think it's pretty good. And I mean, this would evaluating this class would take so much longer than evaluating any other class in 5e. Yeah. Because of how let's talk about that design now. This is prohibitively complicated. Even to the point of building a complicated subclass or building a complicated class. And I think the problem from that stems, I actually really like the rights, but it's the subclasses within the subclasses of you have these different rights with their own tracks that you have to go down to get them. I think that's that to the nth degree of complication that really pushes it over the line.
I agree. I think they went way too hard on the branching path kind of vibe. You know, they wanted the mechanics of the class to be what gives a character's individuality. But the whole point of playing one of the a character like this, right, an occultist character, is that you have a very clear idea of how you want to play the character. And you don't need, right, the mechanics in the class to make the occultist you create different from the occultist, someone else creates. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just got too much. The design is not. It's just too deep.
Yeah, I really like. I would really like more if they just cut down. I want to just point out for the Revelation of Life and Revelation of Fire and stuff like that. You take a feature and it gives you a little set of fields to push your flavor a certain way. A certain set of spells. I actually kind of like that a lot. I'm interested in doing a fire kind of thing with this, and I have this one button I can push to I want to pump up my fire game. I like that. it's the three-part mystery of fire, revelation of fire, voracious flames, and then combined with other. These interact with the mystery ones, and that's like
Yeah.
it's the like creating. Maybe the best point is creating the synergies in between the different ones is really where it gets funky.
Yeah, and actually, here's another question, Pete, because this is something we can't really look at here. The absolute immense level of depth, complexity, and sophistication that this has. Is there any way in hell that this functions well with multi-classing? Right? I think this is just a absolute, like, the balance is dead if you try and multi-class this, because I have no doubt there are, like, with just the sheer number of spell things that they've created, and I mean, maybe we go through all of them and it's somehow perfect.
Infinite monkeys on infinite keyboards.
Yeah, right, makes crippling problem somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot in that regard. Especially, hold on a second. The big thing is like
when you cast a spell that invokes a mystery, so you have to pick spells that make your mysteries happen too.
Yeah, it's very like it's the internal synergies and like conditions between different stuff. Nina Wang says Pathfinder hurts my soul. And V Bunny was saying this is designed like a Pathfinder class. There's definitely some truth to that, I think, V Bunny, where there's like these interactions between points rather than each thing standing on its own, and that's what this thing needs to kind of boil down to. But
so, Pete, let's talk about it in final.
So design, no, it does not get the design point. Flavor point, it gets the flavor point for me too.
Beautifully created piece, very well executed throughout.
I'm very glad that this was good, and unlike the first one, which was the heart was in the right place, maybe.
I think let's do this overall. So this is again the Occultist by Kibbles Tasty. Again, you can find them at kthomebrew.com. Yeah, very cool. Space, it's got the point. Balance, it's probably got the point, but it's hard to evaluate. So shrug.
It would take more time to say that it's got a point, and would probably need to be balanced. We'd need to basically have
look at every spell and everything.
Well, we need to look at 3 different points too, and say like,
yeah,
is this one balanced? Is that subclass balanced? Is that subclass balanced? And then like combine those into the,
I guess we give it the point, maybe.
I'd give it the point asterisk, like asterisk for time. What we looked at, like the Oracle that we looked at, I think works.
Mm-hmm.
I think it. I don't think it would have.
Right, we haven't looked at all the spells, and we haven't looked at all of the.
Frankly, if I use this, I wouldn't.
Whatever.
I wouldn't fuck with those spells. Like, I'd probably just use existing spells, which I know a lot of classes get their own spells, but
ignoring all the spells and ignoring all of the.
And we already agreed to cut out multi-classing to begin with because that's just too much to think about. That's what you find in playtests.
There's nothing that kills it playability-wise that we know, and the flavor is real cool. So, 4 out of 5. Hot damn! Did not expect that for a class.
I didn't either.
This person's like this person's a pro homebrewer, by the way.
And we haven't really like seen all of it, so maybe, but. I'm curious, Vibon, you said 3 out of 5 in your book. Which point did you duck? Was it? Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I still think that that's a design issue personally, but.
Yeah, I think you could look at it either way. Whether the sheer magnitude of choice is too complex, because I think there's a difference between the depth of choice, which is definitely a design issue. There's just too many layered choices, versus the overwhelming quantity of options.
Yeah, I would like to see if some of that depth of choice where like everything was playing off of each other, if some of that was like culled back, I'd like to look at it again and reevaluate my opinion on the playability there. But
it's actually weird though, right? Because I'm thinking about it now. And it's like, if we were to look at the wizard with 5 subclasses, right? A whole armada of new spells, and we were to look at the wizard without knowing anything about the wizard, right? Would we say that would lose the point because of its sheer amount of choice? I think the reason we're intimidated by this one is because this is new stuff, not because it's
Yeah, I think there's definitely truth to that too.
Yeah,
Just
like
the sheer amount of content that we're trying to take in all at once, I think is
Yeah.
definitely an aspect. But also, there's a lot. like,
Yeah.
like, despite that, there is a lot too. So it's not entirely that, but I'm sure that there's an influence there. This was really interesting.
Yeah, very, very cool. I really like looking at this stuff and getting people's getting an idea for what people think about it. You know,
I'm really looking to reading over Frosty's subclass on the 4th.
it's a class, not a subclass.
I'm sorry, yeah. Well, the subclass for his class and the other subclasses, all 7 of them. Because you got to make sure that you're up to date with enough content as they've released it out, like they did for the the psionic class, the mystic.
Yeah. Oh god, the mystic. This is way better than the mystic was.
Yeah, actually. The mystic had a lot of cool ideas. I'll be a widow to homebrew, says Raventail. You get 3.
3. Oh, excellent. Anyway, folks, I think that's it for it. This is a very interesting first delve into class design for 5th edition D&D. It was very cool.
Yeah. I definitely learned a lot from reading it and thinking about this. Like, because we never talk about classes because they're so hard, so it's just not a thing that I ever feel cause to think about. So I'm glad we took the time to go through a couple classes. We'll do this again, probably not often. I don't think classes are going to be like a regular thing unless there's stuff that you guys made, because we'll obviously do classes if you guys put them together. Yeah, that's it. I think that's probably the show.
Absolutely.
Right at 11:30, we're good on time.
I say when we were talking about the that being a 4 out of 5, that's a 4 out of 5 where that 5th point is just a matter of, like, I think that it's just a little too complex with those kind of branching sub options. That's not necessarily true, but from what we've seen in 5e so far, I think that the Barbarian does it with their subclasses, actually, with the what is he? The animal one. Totem Spirit.
The totem. The thing is each of those features you can take independently and it functions on its own. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. I'm babbling. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Tune in next Friday to Wait, what?
Is there going to be homework this week?
I think this might be another non-homework week, which I think we'll definitely do homework the week after, but we have a lot to talk about with Rime of the Frost Maiden, and as well as some stuff from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. That's
it.
That's all. Yeah, so I think it's going to be another non-homework week, but we'll definitely do homework the week after that. We'll get back into it. Also, I want to do another, brew some stuff on stream soon too. So that'll happen eventually.
Everything will work, but we'll make it happen.
Tune in on Friday. Tune in on Friday to Pete and Jeremy's D&D time. It's a show where we run games with the community here. It's every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and it's a lot of fun. You can learn more about it at www.dndtime.stream. Thank you for everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah, we'll catch you all on Friday. He's Pete.
He's Jeremy, and this is Fantasy Labs.
Good night, y'all.
Good night, everyone.